who knows if all 50 are even going to show up or anything. So not a big deal.
All right. So right now, currently, we are live streaming as a group. So just as a heads up, just so you guys know. Somebody let Suni know when she gets off. Suni, can you hear us? Or is she just rocking out? Okay. So just know that we are live right now, but we have not started, obviously, streaming it. But we do need to, if you guys can, we do need to start playing it. Get ready. Get it up on the StreamYard. So Casey, can you give the link? Actually, I can even go on the StreamYard now. Can you give the link? You know what I'm saying? The link to the YouTube so I can bring that up in my share screen.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in Slack just so it doesn't end up in the chat with anybody else that joins.
Okay, so. Okay, you're doing it, Casey.
Operation TBA is where
I'll do it on the I got this part.
Okay.
Operation TBA.
Let me close it out then.
What's that?
The fuck was that? Oh, hell no.
You murdering a cat?
Where are my host capabilities, Christine?
What?
What's happening?
You got a bad echo.
Who, me?
Christine.
Oh, Christine.
I'm not talking, don't worry.
DDG finna blow. Shorty, bad.
Oops. It's funny. I just heard Casey say, "Are you murdering a cat again?"
Is it really that delayed?
Yeah.
Damn.
But you just heard me.
I'm hearing on both.
Oh, you're talking about YouTube. Okay, that's fine.
I caught some of Billy's live last night on Instagram, and he was walking the street where the murder happened. And in the comments, I only stayed on for like 5-6 minutes. In the comments, I did ask, a lot of people were asking how the dog was, but I think he was so caught up with the murder that happened that I just wanted to tell you guys that.
Yeah, I expect that to come up quite a bit today.
Yeah.
Hell no, bro. I just heard double.
This is really hard.
What do you need? You need me to do anything?
No, I'm saying because I'm hearing current conversation and
just go to your mixer. If you go to the mixer and turn, just mute Google because we're not using
it. Here's the I don't know how to do it on a Mac. On a PC, a real computer, I would change my computer audio settings to go through something else, and then have just Zoom go through your speakers or however you want to listen.
What I should be doing it is on a different computer, but I'm not. But it's okay. I
bankrolls after bankrolls after bankrolls.
So this will be on PTP's YouTube, right? With the StreamYard.
Shorty, bad.
Okay.
Wait, can people see us?
Yes.
Dang.
We have.
We're not live to all of them. We're just the only place people can see is on the backup Be the Change page right now.
Correct.
All right. I'm gonna leave the studio.
We have 75 viewers right now.
75 viewers on what?
The YouTube.
Who hit live on StreamYard?
Nobody.
I'm just kidding.
You're so bad.
I'm so confused. Where am I hearing this? I'm hearing it over here right now. God dang it.
Poor Russo.
There's way too much going on.
Okay, I'll shut up.
I'm not gonna be able to do this without.
What are you trying to do? And I can do it. I have a bunch of screens here. What are you trying to do?
Yeah. He's trying to just share the StreamYard on Zoom, right?
Okay. Fuck that. All right. So I have now muted the other one, which it needs to actually be playing audio. So we might need because I have not gone live on StreamYard yet. So we need to, so it's live right now on the BTC backup page. There's only 2 people viewing, so that's no big deal.
What? So
What screen did that come from? Was that Blake?
That was Blake.
Yes.
Okay. So at one point, if somebody wants to log into the StreamYard, they can actually separate their audio or have a multiple computer or another system, have it so that when I say to go live, just share that screen, share your YouTube screen, and share the YouTube link, which is I'm going to put it in the chat box. Nobody's going to care for this page. It doesn't matter. So, putting it in the chat box. There we go. So that is the screen to share into the StreamYard. Okay.
Yep, I'll do it. I'm on it.
And then and then and remember, you can't mute that though. You can't mute that because you're technically sharing a screen. So that's why it needs to be kind of separate. You need to be able to almost mute that part of your computer.
I know.
Okay.
That's what I did all day yesterday.
Fancy pants.
2 audio sources. We're good.
All right, I'm closing that sucker because that was
don't worry about it. We
too
got
much
it.
on one computer and one ear.
Here. Need to get to the link.
And we'll be starting in about 9 minutes. Christine, if you want the instructions on, essentially whenever they come in, we just need to know that they're in. Casey, at one point you can switch me back to admin or the host, so that I can be in control of the screen. I don't think that'll cut off the live stream.
Done.
No, it shouldn't. Okay. Yeah, we're still good. Okay, so I could see we got 5 people in the waiting room. Oh, Anthony Gonzalez. I might as well bring in Anthony. All right.
Whoever has admin on StreamYard, can you go and bring me up stage so I can share and stuff real quick?
Anthony, what's going on?
You can't because there's no your camera access isn't on.
We are we're live on one spot right now. We're just organizing stuff. We have not kind of blasted out there yet, so we figured we'd bring you up. Say hello. How you doing?
I'm good. As soon as I get this rolling here, here we go.
You're good. So yeah, we're just we're organizing some stuff that's kind of just backstage. So we'll introduce you to make sure everybody knows that you are here. And if there's any questions, obviously we'd love for you to give a little bit of a background on yourself. A little ditty. And did you get a chance to watch any of yesterday's event?
No, I didn't. To be honest with you, I was running to different places yesterday.
You're totally good. So the overriding theme was, of course, finding a way to take action in local elections, trying to find a way to take action local school boards, how to create change, et cetera. And I already know people are going to have some legal questions for you in terms of, broad spectrum of issues of what's going on locally in their country, et cetera. So
I'll
that's
do
all.
my best.
Hang out as long as you can, as long as you want to, and then let us know when you're kind of getting ready to go. It's going to be pretty laid back in here.
Okay, no worries.
Cool.
Sounds good to me.
All right. And you sound great. So we're pretty good for that. And we've got 6 people currently in the waiting room, and we will start letting people in about 5 minutes.
I'm going to have to pivot and use my laptop.
I told you it's really hard.
No, it's not really hard. Shut up. I figured it out. I got the solution. Because I have my laptop right here. We're just going to use that. And then that way it's not a big deal. So bear with me a second.
You're all good.
Oh, I have my server. Let me just use that. What am I doing?
Did I see that you guys have something going on all day today?
Just this from 2:30 Eastern to 5. So this is just the yesterday was the full day. This is the Q&A. If people have questions for Primetime Patriots, me would be the change. Our guests like you. It's kind of just a live look at a conversation type thing.
Gotcha.
Thanks for being here. Where are you? Where do you live? Where are you calling in from?
You familiar with the Citrus Park area?
Well,
Around-
State.
he's in Tampa with me,
Yeah.
Tampa, Florida.
Oh,
Sorry.
gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm sorry. So I guess you guys are spread out then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Got you.
I'm in outside of Dallas. I'm in Fort Worth area.
Okay.
Lauren is LA. Blake is Ohio. Suni is in Japan.
Whoa.
Casey, which has my face up there right now, is Utah. Nikki is in I don't know if she'd consider it Lake Station, Hammond kind of area,
Okay. Wow.
Indiana. I never do Zoom.
Oh man, listen, in my world, that's the court system now is at least in Florida is pretty much all Zoom.
Yeah. Zoom I go on other people's Zooms, but I typically don't run my own Zooms. And when I run my own, it's typically on StreamYard because it's just such an easy app to do live streaming. But when it comes to big meetings, it's just a little different.
Although a judge threw me a curveball the other day because pretty much every judge uses Zoom, and this one wanted to use the Microsoft Teams platform.
Yeah.
Well, I've got Apple products, and yeah, so it caused me a problem.
Yeah.
I think my favorite is a video where you see the lawyer gets a filter. He's like, "Judge, I'm not a cat."
Oh yeah.
That was hysterical.
That was so good.
Listen, when this thing first started out, there were attorneys rolling out of bed, literally in T-shirts and stuff, appearing on Zoom here. I've always treated it as Zoom, but I've always treated it as a court proceeding. So I always wear a coat and tie. But there were people rolling out T-shirts,
So funny.
that kind of stuff like that. And I think it's a good thing in a lot of ways, but it just set too much of a lackadaisical type of approach.
Yeah.
And then it's hard. Once you give something, it's hard to take it back.
Right.
Yep.
Back into the flow.
So this is what we're going to do. We're going to let everybody in a little bit early. And then Casey, as he's figuring things out, we'll go live on the main pages through StreamYard once everybody's kind of comfortable in here. And we go over some of the rules, and we'll keep repeating as we go. So I'm letting everyone in that is in the back room right now. Bum, bum, bum. Welcome, everybody. I am going to ask that everybody mutes their audio. Actually, no, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody, except for a couple people, just to make it easy. Allow participants to unmute themselves. So I actually am not going to allow people to unmute themselves. We're going to work on the hand raising before we go live on all of our platforms. We'll work on that. So I'm muting everyone. Admin. Another couple more people coming in. People I want to unmute. Oh yeah, I got you. Hold on. I see you. Ask to unmute, Casey. What's up?
Yeah. Suni, can you pull up my video real quick and make sure we have audio on StreamYard, please?
We'll be given instructions before we go
Suni
live.
can't unmute. Russo.
I got her. Hold on. I've asked Suni to unmute.
There's no audio.
There we go.
No.
Okay, so he's working on that. We'll be broadcasting shortly to everyone. So everybody, as you guys join, the way we are going to do this, because we're trying to find a pretty creative way to make this work, where we are live streaming to the channels and also have you guys have the opportunity to raise hands, but we also want to keep it organized. So I'm not letting people unmute themselves. So we're going to have to make sure you're utilizing the chat. We're going to make sure you're utilizing the chat, which is in the bottom right of most people's screens. You type messages if you want to be brought up, or the most likely thing that I would like you guys to do is to learn how to do the reactions and raise a hand. If you do not know how to raise a hand, I know, Lauren, if you could, I've unmuted you. You've done a bunch of these, and I know there's different ways of doing it for different devices, different platforms. So can you give a rundown on how to raise a hand?
Yes. So if you are, I'm on my computer right now. So how I would raise my hand is is going to opening up participants on the bottom, and then you find open up participants, and then at the bottom right corner there's a button to raise your hand. I'm forgetting on the phone exactly what that looks like, but there should be something on the bottom of your screen as well to do that.
Yeah. So when we do the Q&A session as we get started, we already have Anthony Gonzalez in here, and we'll explain that. Reactions, raise hand. Mark said reactions and raise hand. That's as long as you can find reactions on your phone, that is the place to do it. I'm going to do one more double check, see if we've got any new donations. And then as soon as Casey gives me the symbol that we are good to go live, we'll probably go live. You accidentally, Lauren. Oh, sorry. That's funny. Give me a second, Lauren. I got you. Asking you to unmute. There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry. Chris said, press the 3 dots. Press that 3 dots and says more for reactions on your phone. Chris can't type.
Yes. Today. So reactions or participants should help you.
Yep. Bum, bum, bum. All right. I'm going to go to the widescreen again, gallery. It should be on, why is it not on? It should be on speaker, and it's only on Lauren right now, and I don't know why. Okay. We're just going to leave it like this for a bit. It's all right. All good. So we have 25 people in here right now. We are going to wait to go live until Casey gives me the thumbs up, and then we will get this started. I'm going to go through one more. We got more people coming in, so I'm going to do one more full run through of exactly how today is going to work and how we are going to do this once we go live. So, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, you guys feel free to turn your cameras on so we can connect face to face.
Later, he was
that you stretching, Suni?
Yeah, sorry, I thought I was muted.
Well, if we mute ourselves, we go back into mute jail. So everything's on for us.
Yes, our team is on. Yeah, Casey, I see you.
Hello,
Hold on,
guys.
I got you.
I'm glad you're all here.
Right?
Now I'm gonna stretch.
He's just having a great day, just being.
Someone let me know if I'm doing the right.
So
Chris,
everything's
camera.
good for audio?
1 second.
Just double check. I made a slight change, so I just don't want to make sure.
Because I just heard myself stretch.
So we're good to respond.
Yes, Blake, I got you. All right. I know you're having a bad hair day, but calm down. All right, go ahead.
Blake, come on, man.
Blake, what's your question?
Nothing. I just don't know why everyone else is not muted and I was.
Well, there's a very specific reason for that.
We covered that 5-10 minutes ago, Blake.
I wasn't listening.
All right, we've got 27 and we are at 134. We got to go live pretty soon, so we're about to go live. If Casey, if you are ready and you can only hear are we good on audio? So you're not going to be super wicked confused. I gotcha.
Yeah, I can't confirm. Audio is good on my machine, so as long as Suni can hear it, because that's StreamYard, we should be set. So
Got it. Suni looks confused.
no pressure,
She
Suni.
just muted herself.
Why is
Yes,
this
I
a hot
did.
mess?
This is so hard. We're trying to do something a little creative. All right, and I'll explain why this is more complicated than it really typically is. All right, if we're ready to go live, I will explain the instructions after we go live. So go ahead. If you guys give me the thumbs up once we are live, let me know.
Once we're live.
Blake, you're the one that doesn't have control over the system.
As long as
Casey is the one I was looking for.
He's just trying to be supportive.
Yeah, I'm just giving the thumbs up.
Good job.
we're live.
All right,
We're
we
live.
are officially live on all of our platforms. Thank God. Okay, so before I give the instructions to the people here in the Zoom, and again, at this point, if you are not in, I will do my best to look to see if we get an email, etc. But I'm keeping that email box open to try to give you guys the instructions on how to get in there. So the reason this is difficult is Zoom only allows you to stream to one place. And we wanted to make sure we were on YouTube and Facebook. So what we did was we typically, when we do our shows, we use a program called StreamYard. And StreamYard allows you to multicast to different locations. So what we did is we went to a YouTube channel that doesn't have very many viewers. We put it on there. And now we are playing it through the StreamYard and blasting it to a couple of locations. So it's more complicated than it typically has to be, but we wanted it out as many places as possible. Thank you for being patient. We've got a lot of people in this back room. Some of them Patreon, some people donated. Right now, the latest thing that I show on our donations is we are at $3,996.25, and we still have people coming in. Katie just
So close.
So close. We're 1,000 away from the goal for Lauren to have her little hands and mic drop, which we might do anyways. We'll see. All right. So Lauren's going to help me out because she's done a lot of Zoom as well, but I'm going to explain everybody. When you guys come in, you're muted and you don't have control over the mute. Otherwise this could get really sloppy really fast. Eric, I saw that heart. Thank you very much. So Blake, put your damn hand down. So this is how this is going to work. We've already got one of our guests here. We've got Anthony Gonzalez. He is the lawyer. We'll introduce him in a second. This is a Q&A for Anthony. That's me. Lauren, Primetime Patriots. We've got Blake and Suni here. And it's also going to be for our guests. And I want to unmute. I'm going to unmute you now, Anthony, but don't worry about speaking just yet. We'll give you a proper introduction. The way the questions will work is if you guys have one, you could put it in the comment box. We'll try to see that. Or if you want to ask it yourself, just go ahead and raise your hand. Lauren, go ahead and do that whole spiel again on how reactions work if you can.
Yes. So you should all have an area where you see a button for reactions. It's like a little cartoon face with a plus on it. And there are, at least I have a clap one and a thumbs up option. For some of you, likely on your phones, you'll also have the raise hand option, I believe. If you are on a computer, you most likely your raise hand option is going to be in the participants tab. So if you go to participants, it'll open up like a sidebar with everybody's names, and down in the bottom right corner there is the raise hand option. So that should be for all the different formats that everyone's tuning in from here on Zoom.
Suni, I see your message. If you can, go ahead and just give them the copy paste. Do you have the instructions for Zoom? Okay, I'm going to send that in the Slack channel, and then we will get started. Does that work?
That's fine.
I don't have that. Hold on. It's actually in the Slack channel. It's right there.
Okay.
Here, I'll put it again at the bottom so you see it. Thank you guys for being patient with it. This is, again, kind of an experiment on how we are going to make this work. So without further ado, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Again, questions can be directed anywhere. We only have a limited amount of time with Anthony. We also have Darius Mayfield and Jerome Bell coming up. Christine's going to help us out and let us know when they have entered the room. So here we go. Our first guest of the day, very excited to have this person in here, excited to have their expertise as well. Born in Tampa, West Tampa, Anthony has been part of the Tampa community his whole entire life. After law school, he began practicing as a criminal defense lawyer, then represented insurance companies for 17 years. Today, he represents only individuals who have been injured as a result of fault of others and in matters of criminal defense. Anthony is board certified in civil trial law by Florida Bar and is rated AV by Martindale Hubbell as the highest rated rating available to attorneys nationwide. He's lectured at seminars in this area of practice, and he's tried cases throughout the state of Florida since 1986, which is almost when I was born. And he doesn't look a day over 37. So he resides in Tampa with his wife, Linda, and outside of practicing law, he is a co-owner of a cardio fitness gym where he enjoys instructing strength and conditioning, boxing, and fitness classes. And he believes in giving back to his community. The strength of the country is in developing of young teaching to be self-reliant, motivated, and productive citizens. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, I appreciate it, Anthony. And I also like to give a thank you to Christine for inviting me. I didn't totally understand, when I first got the invite about your group. So I did a little bit of research and that kind of thing. And I didn't realize I was going to be speaking to such a large group. And that's great. It's good to see that, people are out there still interested.
Awesome. Love it. So we're going to keep this on a wide Zoom. If you guys have some questions, please start putting them in the comment box or raise your hand like the reactions, like Lauren said before. So as people are coming in, as I see them, I'm letting them in the comment box. These are for donors that gave over $25 or Patreons, and people that are watching on our channels. Please share this. I know this is not the typical format you see from Primetime Patriots or Be the Change, but go ahead and share on all the different pages. I liked what Blake said in the comment box. Instead of me doing the intro of what he has done, I should just say what you haven't, which means it would just have been silent. So does anybody, before we start, and PTP crew, obviously help me out while we have a guest if you've got questions for him, but I will open the floor to anybody out there. If you have a question, raise a hand or put it in the comment box and we will ask Anthony Gonzalez Jr. Got some more people joining too. All right, so I'm gonna ask hold on, was that Chris? Did you have a question? Okay, if you do, just hit the reactions for me and hit a hand up so I know that we have a question to be asked. I have the most common question I have been getting, Anthony, from a legal perspective. What is the law if a employer is requiring the V word, the Fauci ouchie?
Yeah, I got you. Right. And every day that gets a little bit more iffy, right?
Right.
So is a diversity among the states. I'm fortunate to live in a state, Florida, where we have a governor who has basically taken a position to protect employers and providers and so on and so forth. He's not anti-vaccine, but he's aware of the situation that could arise if providers and employers come under attack, which they could. So the law right now in Florida is very good for employers and providers that you can't, there's no, we don't have a vaccine passport. You're not asking employees, if they're, vaccinated or not. And so that creates a real, good situation for Florida. Now the rest of the states may be a little different, but it's still, as an employer, because I have my staff and I also own a gym where I have people coming into the gym. We were following the rules as they were at the beginning. And now we're at a point now where, Florida's really, loosened up on the vaccine issue. And what I tell my staff is this: I'm not going to get involved in their medical issues, but I also ask them to respect, if they feel that, they come into contact with somebody or so on and so forth, but I'm not going to force them to go get a vaccine. And sometimes we do have clients that come in and they'll still be wearing a mask or whatever. And I just ask my staff that regardless of if they've been vaccinated or not, to respect that if it makes the client feel a little bit better. But there is no law, at least in the state of Florida, forcing employees to get vaccinated in order to keep their job.
But that is not nationwide, correct?
That's not nationwide. And I'm assuming it's going to be a red state, blue state scenario. Although, the science seems to change every day about, vaccines and what have you. For me personally, I've been I'm 64 years old, so I've been getting shots since day one. So getting another vaccine wasn't a problem for me, but I also respect other people who may have a reason or an issue not to want to get that vaccine. But Florida, thankfully, we have a governor who is very on top of this, and he's not falling for some of the things that we've been hearing.
Love it.
So there aren't
Go ahead.
HIPAA protections with that, like across the board?
Well, there's always in Florida. I can remember. I'm speaking,
Right.
Florida.
I'm in California, so you can.
Yeah. I'm sorry. HIPAA has always been a law that protects people's privacy. As a matter of fact, you see now if you go up to a counter at CVS or Walgreens, they have a little plastic thing and tell you to stand to the side and that kind of stuff. So HIPAA is still the law. But the question was going to be, could they override, I guess, in a way, that privacy that the person has with their doctor, and have to tell their employer, hey, yes, I'm vaccinated or I'm not. So Governor DeSantis basically put the first nail in that issue by saying no vaccine passports in Florida. So there would be no way for an employer to go, okay, to the employee, show me your vaccine card.
Mm-hmm.
So even if the employer was going to ask the question, it's basically up to the employee to answer it. But the governor has also come through with laws that I think would give a little more comfort to the employer and say, yeah, I really don't need to ask that question because I'm not going to get sued in the event someone gets, COVID at my office because perhaps maybe an employee had it. And because he's basically been on top of that, we're pretty good here in Florida. And I think Texas is pretty much the same as well.
Good question. Yeah, the HIPAA thing, people keep bringing up and they're like, is it valid here? And I think that it's kind of a murky gray area is kind of what you've kind of also made it sound like.
Yeah, because that law still is in place. I mean, that law is it's a federal law and it's still in place and is supposed to be respected. So whether or not, their law can be passed that somehow supersedes or overrides the HIPAA, that's a whole nother issue.
So before we go to Eric, Eric's going to go and then Blake. So if somebody is asking for a vaccinated status, technically they do not have a right, based on the way the current law is, they do not have the current right to ask that, correct?
That's my read on it. In fact, the other way around, I mean, I think you could wind up in a problem with that employee if you ask them to prove, that they're vaccinated, current employee. Not a whole nother issue would be someone that you're looking to hire, because now that's a whole nother set of issues that go on there. But if you went up to an employee today, tomorrow and go, hey, I want to see your vaccine card, or have you been vaccinated? I think, and they say, hey, I want to share that information with you, and you then took action, I think you could run into some problems.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to ask how this applies then for business going to businesses. So not your employer, but like patroning a business is not the word.
Patronizing,
where they are requiring that or asking about that. That I believe is also not cool, right?
Well,
but then they're a private business, so it gets all tricky.
Yeah. Now, and I think these businesses have been a little, they were all in the wear a mask, and now I'm watching it, evolve. And as more people are coming in the store without masks, they're kind of loosening up regulations. I know I shop at a local grocery store here, Publix. I go into Walmart. I go into several different stores now, and there's a lot of people still wearing masks, but nobody's walking up to you and telling you, hey man, where's your mask? Not that kind of.
Got it. I'll come back to that in a little bit because I want to make sure I get to Eric. Eric, I'm going to unmute you real quick. You are going to be up next. Then we'll ask Jennifer B's question. Then we'll go to Blake Vegley. If you guys have a question, find the reactions box and raise a hand in order to ask that question.
Thanks, Russo. So from a pragmatic standpoint, I do have a question about this. Like Lauren, I live here in California. And so from a pragmatic standpoint, because I think a lot of this is not hypothetical anymore, what are some of the recourses that we as everyday average citizens can take to either fight back against this or proactively get in front of it in order to make some legal actions that are specific, that do either protect HIPAA or allow us the availability and freedom to refuse this ridiculous question in the first place?
Yeah, well, that gets us back to, the issue should then become, there's no federal law right now requiring or mandating a vaccine, right? We have vaccine available, and that's clear. So there not being a law, is there a state law that's saying mandated vaccines? And we don't really have state laws mandating vaccine. So then it gets back to the law of the land right now is that you have a right to privacy as far as your medical is concerned. And it's not, it's not a condition of employment to get a job that you have to reveal medical information. I know a lot of employers do things like, we'll give you a cheaper price on healthcare if you don't smoke cigarettes, stuff like that, or you get regular checkups and whatever. But that's a far cry from saying, let me see your medical records. So I think the recourse, and it would be state by state, and perhaps even a federal type of lawsuit would be to pursue that issue via HIPAA and saying you're violating my right, and if there's recourse there. It's funny because organizations like the ACLU, you would expect to be coming out vocally
absolutely
things like this, and they're absolutely quiet on the issue of mandate, of that kind of issue like that. They're absolutely quiet on it.
Are you aware of, and can you speak to any national movements that are currently happening right now that we can look at, participate with, interact with, that might give us also some opportunities to look into the issue ourselves? Like I said, being here in the state of California, we are operating just under a different set of rules. There is no other way to say that. And I do see that we are starting to have some private businesses talk about, that being an entrance question. Come in the door, but we're going to ask you. Now, my understanding of HIPAA law is that asking the question in and of itself is illegal, that there is no designation that allows for even private businesses to require you to answer any question. Now, they can ask it, you can decline it, but it is under my legal assumption with very little knowledge, I will admit that is an illegal question to ask. So the specific question I was asking about recourse is really a proactive step to say, what can we do as average citizens, albeit that, having a good relationship with your doctor, these things are all very important. What can we do from a legal standpoint? And as I mentioned, are there any movements that you're aware of that are speaking to this specific issue before it gets to the point of, I'm going to ask you, and the only recourse is for you to take me to court and require you to show proof that I've been illegally harassed over what is a medical question?
It's a good question, Eric. I know I'm not aware of any movements, and nor am I aware of any employers who have actually affirmatively started that process of asking.
And I'll just give you, my wife does work for a large chain retailer, and it is certainly something that is coming in the pipeline right now as far as a forward-thinking process. How they're going to implement it, of course, seems to be the messy area where we're discussing the legality of some of these issues specifically. But I just, I wanted specifically to bring that up because I think oftentimes we get caught in the minutia of it is illegal. We all can agree to that term. But what recourse specifically we can take as just average citizens is of utmost importance to me. And so it's one of those things. I'll throw a challenge to you as somebody who's come on here as a guest. I would love to. I'd love to see people, looking for those places. And if you do, run across something that would bring us an opportunity here as patriots, on Be the Change and that kind of stuff that we could attach to would be a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I'll keep my ears open and pass that information on. It's funny because we're in states that are on opposite ends of these.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a governor here that is proactively saying, no, I'm not forcing vaccines. No, I'm not, forcing, passports and any of that stuff. So we have a governor, and keep in mind that election that year was the result was it was a 1% election, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And thank God it went the way it went. But so we're on one end of the spectrum and you guys in California are on the other. And so if that kind of thing surfaces, it's probably going to surface more in states where California, for example, I hate to keep using California, New Jersey, New York, that's probably where you'll start to see it surface.
Because of the nature of these laws, do you think that it is a effective tool to use the local government as a first level entry shield, essentially, to changing or stopping this from progressing? Or is this, because it's a federal mandate from HIPAA, is the proper and appropriate place on the federal level?
Well, you're probably looking at a double barrel shotgun, because on a state level, you probably have laws that say, and I'm not an employment lawyer, so I'm kind of shooting from the hip on this, that tell you what you can and cannot ask on that application. Then on a federal level, there's HIPAA, and there's what you can or cannot ask someone with HIPAA as far as that's concerned. So you're probably actually looking at simultaneously two different issues, or two different sides of the shotgun there, as to going after an employer for doing that. And keep in mind, there will be some large law firms that will be, all of a sudden you'll start seeing the commercials, and the commercials say something, did you lose your job because you had to, that'll be coming out.
Fantastic. Thank you for answering those questions. That's kind of all I've got for you specifically around this topic, but great to have you here. We're excited to
thank you, Eric.
Take from you what we can. Appreciate it.
Eric, I just want to give a shout out to you. Thank you so much for everything you donated yesterday. You were one of the MVPs that got us up to, we're right at $4,000 now. Thank you, Eric. Shout out to you.
Good causes need good donors.
I love it. All right. So we've got a couple people. I'm going to ask a question from Jennifer B. We've got almost 180 people watching on our, through our different channels. Please, guys, as a reminder, we are still trying to get to $5,000 in donations. I believe on the bottom of the StreamYard screen, you could see the Venmo or Cash App options. There's also a PayPal, which I'll throw up there in a couple minutes once we get to the next question. So please, again, continue to donate. It's kind of too late to get a link, but anything over $25 did get you in the Zoom. If you want, I'll try to keep an eye out and try to send that link, but please continue to donate. We still have got a little bit more time with Anthony Gonzalez asking legal questions and getting legal answers. So I am going to ask a quick question from Jennifer B, which is, and then we'll go to Blake and then Chris. Can a doctor make you take the jab?
Well, and that gets back to, there is no state or federally mandated requirements to get a vaccine, the vaccine. That's
Go ahead and say it.
So yeah, there is. So that's the starting point. And, I think it was, I can't remember, one of the congressmen that, or was it a senator, who basically said he sat down with his doctor and they talked about the pros and cons based on his health situation at the time. And the conclusion was that it was not in his interest to be taking that shot. So I don't know if the federal government can force you to take a shot that may put you in a precarious health situation because that's what they want to do.
Or so.
Sorry. I'm hearing two things at once. That was my bad. All right. So I was just putting the PayPal link up there for everybody. Next person. Thank you for telling me that I was, listening to something that had happened 20 seconds ago. All right. So we are going to head over to Blake. Go ahead and ask your question for me.
All right, Anthony. So I have a couple questions for you. So don't you find it kind of ironic that in the state of California, they made it a federal law that it's no longer a felony if you don't disclose that you have HIV to someone that's going to kill the other person at 100% if they're not treated, but they're going to be putting a vaccine and mandating a vaccine to people with the survivability of 99.98. I just think that's kind of ironic.
Oh, I agree. I mean, there's so many contradictions that are flying around out there. And, look, I'm one of those people that believe that this COVID thing is probably going to be around in some shape or form for a long, long time. And so we can't wear, masks for the rest of our lives, nor can we, walk around in fear of it. I mean, we seem to be doing, look at Texas. They said Texas was going to fall apart for opening up their state. And turns out that their numbers have gone, way down. So, but you're right. I think, you could use the same rationale for having to report, HIV as having to report whether you've gotten, a vaccine. I mean, it's the same rationale.
Like it's like mental gymnastics a little bit.
As a matter of fact, I don't have to interact with you. So we could be in the same room and talk, and you're not going to get COVID from me. But if we have a relationship, that could cause that without me disclosing that to you. And that's
100% fatality too if it's left untreated. So like, I'm just not understanding the rationale here. And then my second question, so we talk about, obviously, you have these federal laws that obviously our governors are allowed to override in their states. Example, like especially like the executive orders and stuff like that. But in regards to the vaccine, do you think that it'll get to the point where a case will come about that is all the way up to the Supreme Court, where they're going to make a rule law of the land and vote on it?
You mean in terms of forcing?
Correct. Or do you think it's not going to happen because of the established HIPAA law that exists currently in this country?
Yeah, I think if they thought, now keep in mind, I mean, some of the greatest legal minds are available to these guys in, Washington, both sides, Republican or Democrat, they're available to them. I think if they thought they could force a federal law down people's throats, I think they would have done it. So I think they're comfortable with, doing it, handling it. I mean, I thought it was interesting how, they just released the other day that, oh, by the way, you can go in stores now if you've gotten vaccinated, right on the heels of the president saying, well, the numbers aren't necessarily where we want them with vaccines. So did they do that politically to try to get people to come in? If you prove, if you tell us you got a vaccine, now you don't have to wear a mask. I don't know, but I don't think I haven't heard any serious discussion about a law forcing the use of, vaccines.
All right. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. We've got Chris coming up next. Before that, Lauren, can you do me a favor? Give a rundown again for everybody on how to utilize the reactions if they want to put a hand up and ask a question.
Yes, if you guys have questions, if you're on a desktop computer, laptop computer, if you go down to the bottom of your Zoom window, you should see a little like smiley face with a plus sign, and that should have like a clap or a thumbs up. For some people, it may also have the raise hand option. If you don't see the raise hand option there, click on participants and that'll pop a sidebar out in the bottom right corner. There will be the raise hand option there for you. On your phone, I think it's going to be down at the bottom of your screen, and there probably will be like the 3 dots sort of thing. So those are all the different ways to find how to raise your hand to ask a question. If you're having a ton of trouble doing that and you can't find it, we don't want the tech to get in the way of asking a question. So just throw it into the chat too, and we can hopefully get to it that way.
That is correct. And who else? Who had the hand up? Where is that? Where'd that go?
I think it was Chris or Eric, one of the two. Chris, I think.
Oh, there we go. All right, I'm going to unmute you, Chris. And we still have a lot of people watching. Please do us a favor and share this. Go ahead and hit any of the reactions to keep the algorithm going. A decent amount of people watching a live stream on Zoom, so that's excellent. And we're getting some great Q&A feedback. All right, Chris, floor is yours. Go for it.
So I need a little bit of a clarification on HIPAA. It's always been my impression that HIPAA is between the caregiver and the patient, meaning the caregiver cannot release medical records of a patient without their consent. So I have a hard time wrapping my head around the whole HIPAA argument when I see posts on Facebook. Let's say that Walmart requires you to have a vaccine if you want to shop without a mask on. I don't particularly see a legalities against that. Just if they're requiring it, don't shop there. So can you clarify to me, like, isn't HIPAA between the caregiver and the patient, not from private citizen to private citizen?
No, you're correct, Chris. If you look at a HIPAA form, and they're down at the bottom because you want to release documents. Number one, there's probably like 30 different, when you look at that release, it says things that you can release. You can release lab results. You can release everything all the way up to maybe 1 or 2 things, right? But then it asks for what reason are you releasing this information for, and to whom are you giving us authority to release the records to? So you are absolutely correct. Without that release signed by the patient, the doctor or provider is not going to release your records. I think we're they're talking about, when I know when I went to CVS and I got my shot, they gave me a little card, date of the first shot, date of the second shot, and told me to hold on to this. I don't know if that's what they're talking about, the vaccine passport, right? So me as the patient or person getting the shot, I can show that card if I wanted to whoever to say, look, I got my shots. So that's me releasing that information. That's a far cry different from calling your doctor up and saying, hey, give me Chris's medical information. You better have that provider better have an authorization signed by you authorizing the release of your records.
So Anthony, what's the difference between me coming up and asking you, Anthony, hey, give me your medical records, and I'm a private citizen, so I demand it, so you have to give it to me. So what's stopping a business from, like, why is a business allowed to do that?
Well, they're not, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they are, and I don't think that's why. Right now, the pretense is any business can basically say, hey, you're wearing a hat, right? They can say, hey, we're not allowing people wearing hats into our store. That's just their store policy, right? So the mask thing was their store policy. Now, it's a different story if they're asking for, you got that little card? Can I see it, right? They're not invading the HIPAA issue because they're not going to your medical provider saying, give me Blake's medical proof that he received the shot. All they're asking is, hey, can I see that little card you're carrying, Blake? So now it becomes between you and that store owner as to whether or not you want to release that information.
Got it. All right, Rebecca. Let's see. Rebecca, do you want me to unmute you? I'm just gonna, because you said you were having trouble. So I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you if you want to ask the question. I'm gonna go back to the main gallery. Rebecca, I saw you. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, somebody just came in and totally got me off that part of the screen. Again, guys, keep sharing this video out there. I know you guys are watching with a little bit of delay. We will get to some trivia in a couple minutes. Rebecca, unmute. I've just asked if you want to unmute if you want to ask your question. If not, I can read it for you. There you go, Rebecca.
Okay.
I see you.
So is it lawful if you signed up to attend something? Like my son's supposed to go to DC and he's going for a youth leadership national convention. And now they're requiring the students to provide a negative COVID test if they're going to go. Can they require that from someone? Can they require that type of medical information when they go somewhere?
So this is now you're referring to the organization putting on the youth leadership. I think that at this point, if it's not, it becomes then is it a private entity or is it a government entity kind of situation?
It's a private entity that works with the government. Like it's for National Youth Leadership Organization for they put on all different types of promotions or informational seminar things for kids where they get experience with other job stuff. So it's like they're going to DC for intelligence and national security is the program that he was invited to in 2019. So they put it off in 2020 when he was supposed to go due to COVID. And now they're requiring it that they're doing it this year, that you provide documentation within 5 days of you going that you have a negative COVID test result.
Well, it's still kind of, as I understand it, and haven't flown, recently that, airlines or cruise ships, were requiring proof of it, having that shot, or not, negative test within a certain time period of plane or thereafter. I don't know that anybody's challenged it yet. And the reason why I don't know that anybody's challenged it yet was if you go back 6 months, as there was more positive cases of COVID, the science was probably, arguably the science was there basically supporting maybe providing that test. Now that we're more down on the tail end of this thing, I don't know that anybody's actually challenged it. And your challenge will have to be, because it's a private entity, again, your challenge would have to be that, some type of discrimination type of thing, situation, possibly because we're not letting them in without a positive test. But I do know that stuff is still going on, but nobody's actually challenged it yet. There has been challenges at the state level, For example, I think it was in New York where there was a religious organization being denied the opportunity to do their services. And the judge heard the case, and the judge came out and said there was no difference between the protests that were going on, the same that, and allowing someone into the church for a service. But I think your recourse would be in the courts. And by the time you do something along those lines, the leadership conference, would probably be over.
Hey, I'm going to really quick interrupt. I'm going to need help from my Suni and Casey. I made a very big mistake on the social media. I was trying to go back and forth, and instead of leaving studio, I hit end broadcast. So we need to recreate everything. That was a big whoops on my part. So if we could take, shut up, Casey. If we could take 3 minutes. If we could take 3 minutes to really quick get that stream back up and running. That was a huge mistake on my part, and I apologize. If we can just do a live and just get this started back up again. Obviously, this is the benefit of being in the Q&A, is you actually get to stay here the whole time. And my trigger finger, the first time I did this was like the third week I ever was using StreamYard, and I just did it now the second time. So I apologize. If we could just have a minute to regroup on that, I am so sorry.
As soon as you just get me the link, and then I'll pull it up. And
in the meantime, for people here in the Q&A, because I know Suni and Casey did it before, I will go ahead and use this time. Sorry again, Anthony, just give us a second. I'll use this.
Yeah, I'm good.
Sorry about that. I'll use this time to do a trivia question. So the way trivia is going to work is it's going to go in the comment box. First person to put a comment in the comment box. Sorry again. Right when I hit the button, you should have seen my face. I could watch the replay of me going, "Oh, you son of a biscuit." So I'm going to pull up. Let's see, where are we on questions? We're on question number 12. Question number 12. First person to get this right, Nikki. Make sure you're keeping track of who gets this right. And then once we go back live again, I'll make an announcement that I am an idiot, and we'll fix it. So let's see. Question number 12. First person to put it in the comment box, I will be watching. You are going to be getting some gear from either PTP or Be the Change. Question number 12. What states do not have daylight saving time? What states do not have daylight savings time? There's two. I need both. Chris Farron, first one to get it in there. Nikki, make sure you write that down. It is Arizona and Hawaii. Arizona and Hawaii is the correct answer. How are we doing, Casey and Suni? About 2 more minutes? Are we okay? 2 minutes? Okay. Dose, sorry, I am such an idiot. I don't make many mistakes, but when I do, they're really big ones. All right, we're gonna do one more trivia. We've got a total of that'll leave us to our final two, which we'll save for later, or maybe we'll come up with one on here. Actually, this might be fun, Anthony.
Yes.
Do you have like a fun legal question that you can ask?
Fun legal question. There's nothing fun usually about legal stuff. Be very painful.
All right, if you think of one, well, you can make that on your exit. You can have one final trivia question. I'll go ahead and ask the next one. Actually, Lauren, are you up and running? Are you okay? Do you want to ask question number 13?
Okay. Question number 13. We ready, team?
Yeah.
After the death of William McKinley, Congress directed the blank to protect the President of the United States of America.
After the death. Okay, Rebecca, you're on direct message. Yeah, Rebecca, you're on direct message. Okay, so that's a tough one. I gotta, even though you guys probably only see Jennifer being first, it is actually Rebecca answered it in a direct message. I will count it. It is the Secret Service. Fun fact, Secret Service was around much more before this, but that is when it was decided that it would be there to protect the government. So the winner on this one, Nikki, keeping track. It is not Jennifer, even though it looks like it. It is Rebecca.
Yes, make sure you have your chat set to everyone, unless you do want to send a private message to somebody. Though, keep in mind with Zoom, if you send a private message, that transcript will be viewable by the hosts after the fact. So, don't like trash.
I didn't know that. God, I've said some things that I don't want people to know about.
Yep.
Nikki, you're on. You're unmuted. What's up?
What's her last name? Rebecca's.
Carpenter. Yeah. So wait, Lauren, so that means that in the classes that you've had with where Nikki and I were in, if Nikki and I were having a side conversation, you saw all of our side conversations?
No. So once Zoom is done, if you're recording, like it'll save, whether you're recording to the cloud or to your computer, it will save the video, the audio, and the chat transcript to a file either in your Zoom account or on your computer. And the chat transcript has not just the everyone chat, it's got all the side chats too. I don't fucking go back and read that shit. I'm not interested in that. So, but yeah, it's
So
available.
yes. So Russo, your nudes were leaked. Okay.
Yeah.
Russo, we're all live again.
Okay, got it. That is hilarious because I've said some really off-color things in those side chats.
Oh, I've like, oh yeah, plenty of times you're chatting about someone in the Zoom, and then it's like, oh, let's do this on
Wait,
text.
so Russo's gonna be able to see what me and Nikki have been saying about him this whole time?
Yeah.
Well,
Good.
we're not recording this, so no, we're only
Good.
it's only going to be on YouTube and all that stuff. So no, I won't be able to see it. But now I feel like I should record it. Okay, we are live again, guys. That was, I'm sure there's people going, oh, YouTube, Facebook, they brought him down. That was not. That was Anthony Russo brought us down because I am a big bumbling idiot. Blake, this is your chance to lay the smackdown on me if you would like.
Well, everybody already knows you're an idiot.
Okay. So I apologize. I was trying to go back and forth, and instead of hitting leave studio, I hit end broadcast. And if anybody saw my face going, that's what had just happened. So sorry. Rita just said that's what made her smile today. So I thoroughly apologize. That 5-minute glitch. Please reshare this out. Do us that favor. Help us get back to where we were. We had about 200 people watching. So we are going to get back into it. I don't even know where we left off on questions. Go ahead, Lauren, explain how the reactions work in order for people to raise a hand. Again, Blake, this is how this works. People keep tuning in. People keep jumping in. There's new people in the chat here. And we just want people to know.
Posting 101. You remind people of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, if you're on desktop, bottom of your screen, you'll see a little smiley face with a plus sign that says reactions. You will likely have a clap, a thumbs up, and might have a hand raise option. If you don't have that there, hit participants, a little sidebar will pop out. There's a hand raise option down in the bottom right corner there. If you are on your phone, you may also, if you hover over your own name in the participants list or your like face in the camera, you may have the 3 buttons option. It could be in there if you're on your phone. I'm forgetting, but it's most likely down at the bottom of your screen.
The 3 little dots.
Yes, the 3 little dots. And if you're really having trouble finding the hand raise, throw the question in the chat and we'll do our best to fold it into the mix.
Just to remind you all, Lauren did also say that everybody here has the clap. So you might want to go get that.
Hot girl summer. What?
Definitely another HIPAA violation. All right. So Tori has a question and we are back up over 100 viewers. So I think we're good to go. Again, I apologize for those just tuning in. We made a mistake. By we, I made a mistake. Yeah, thank you. I made a mistake and we accidentally ended that broadcast. Had nothing to do with Facebook or YouTube. That was my fault. So thank you for rejoining, and we'll keep people knowing that we are still taking donations. A couple people just donated. I will, while the next question is being asked, I will send you the link if you would like to join us. Tori, I'm unmuting you right now. Go for it.
Are you there?
Yeah, go ahead, Tori.
So I'm curious about the right to work states. Lately, a few businesses have required the V card or you have to wear a mask. Now, right to work states can let you go for just about anything, but knowing that this would be the basis for your termination, how can you handle it?
Well, it's a good question, Tori. And like I said, Florida took the, I haven't thoroughly read the law that the governor just passed in this legislative session, but he did pass a law that provides protection for employers and providers from suits based on, for COVID and that kind of thing like that. So with that said, I think that kind of took the edge off of, and not to mention that the governor also said no vaccine passports. So it's up to, I mean, the best that employer is going to be able to ask is, you know, kind of off the record, hey, did you get the vaccine? If he's going on record and saying that, then I think you need to talk with an employment law lawyer, because I think there's going to be a problem. And even though right to work law, you know, laws are what they are, I know it doesn't mean that there's not an issue there to, you know, to be, you know, vetted out a little bit. It's all new. I'm not aware of any of those terminations or suits being brought in Florida, even before the governor signed this law. So I just don't know what's going on in other states, but in Florida right now, you know, I can't, I just not aware of it.
So Anthony,
Okay.
what's going on here in Ohio is that there are businesses that are requiring their staff to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And if they do require that under the OSHA law here, they are required to sign a form that if anything happens to the individual that receives the COVID-19 vaccine and has any adverse reactions, the actual employer is held liable because they're mandating it. And when you mandate something like that, they're held liable because they're making their staff put that in their body. So there's actually a form that's going to be initiated in the state of Ohio where you know how the vaccine manufacturers are not held accountable. Anybody who administers is not held accountable. But in the state of Ohio, if it's mandated by your employer, they are going to be held liable if you have any adverse reactions to the vaccine.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see, you know, in Florida, we have two systems. We have a work comp system and we have a tort system for injuries. The injuries on the job come under the work comp system that we have. Now, under that system is very employer oriented. I mean, it's very hard. So I don't know what damages, okay? What damages. Let's say you do have an employee who gets the shot because it was mandated and goes ahead and gets it and then brings a suit. I don't know if that's going to be a suit brought, you know, a federal law case, a state law case,
Right.
work comp. It's all of it. It's all, you know, way too, not, you know, way too, one thing for sure is that the manufacturer of the vaccine is protected. So you're not going to see a products liability case. But the question is, what kind of case do you have against the employer?
I see a good question from Mama Russo, actually, saying, what about medical exemptions? And that I think that kind of goes for mask wearing as well. I don't know if I might have missed a question earlier, but yeah, in terms of medical exemptions, being forced to wear a mask or from vaccinations, I know that there's some ingredients that people have adverse reactions to. What kind of rights do people have with that?
Yeah, that's a real good question because I haven't heard anyone yet. I mean, I do know that people have asthma. They do have, you know, situations like that, but I haven't heard that they're not required to wear that mask to go into the store. If you're talking about going into that private store or that private restaurant, if you're talking about that, I haven't heard that the requirements still don't apply to them because it's the store's requirement. And they're not selling, you know, they're not saying, you know, sorry. I mean, what they're not saying is you can't come into my store even though you have asthma. What they're saying is if you're coming into my store with asthma, you got to wear that mask to protect everyone else, not just yourself. So I'm not aware of those kind of exemptions.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions? Please go ahead and raise your hand in the, Lauren's on her way back in. Go ahead and raise your hand. Let's see, medical exemptions. I'm looking at, or if you don't want to be unmuted, go ahead and just put your comment in the side. I think Rebecca just put her thumb up. I don't know if she has another question. Let me see where Rebecca is again. Nope, I think her thumb's down. Rebecca, did you have something else?
Yes.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
did. What about hospitals? Like I have medical conditions where I can't wear a mask, don't want to wear a mask besides the point. But I took my son into the hospital the other day and because he broke a bone. So I'm going to the hospital to seek medical treatment from the doctor. They refused to allow me to go with my son to seek treatment. So thankfully his father had showed up, but I sat in the waiting room by myself, no other people in the waiting room. And just before my son was about to be done, they came out to me, one of the doctors, I thought he was coming to give me an update on my son. And he's bringing 2 security people with him that are armed, telling me either I need to leave the hospital or they're going to charge me with trespass. And I'm just sitting there waiting for my son to be done with x-rays and whatnot in the emergency room.
Because Because you weren't wearing a mask, or was that the issue?
Yeah, because I wasn't wearing a mask. And I explained to each person, I said, I have a medical condition and I do not wear a mask. And they said, well, if you're not going to put on a mask, you need to leave or we're going to charge you with trespassing.
Yeah, I think it gets back to what I was just saying, is that they're not saying you can't come in the hospital. They're basically saying we want you to wear a mask if you're going to come into our hospital for not only your protection, but the protection of others. I know I was just having this conversation last night, how many people, particularly in the nursing home settings, that had parents or loved ones pass away and were not allowed to see them, period, end of story, mask, no mask. They weren't being allowed into nursing homes. They weren't being allowed into hospitals with elderly mothers, fathers, grandparents, stuff like that. And they were, successful in keeping people out of their hospitals. So
how does this affect those, like with American Disabilities Acts and things like that, where if you have certain medical conditions and things like that, that would be a discrimination against you because of whatever's going on because of your medical condition, you are not able to comply with what they're requesting?
yeah, I mean, ordinarily you would think that argument would have merit. I haven't heard that argument being used in any setting successfully to overcome the mask mandate. I mean, I've tried to keep my ears. I don't really practice employment or that type of law, but I've kept my ears open to see were people testing the waters, with the mask issue. And really, there wasn't a lot of litigation that I was aware of where any one person was challenging going into a store, going into a hospital without a mask because they had a medical condition.
We got another question from Nishimta, aka Mama Russo. I did notice Katie's comment, and it's funny. There was a commercial with a deaf person, or I don't know what the PC term is right now, but they were talking about, and it's like they had these masks on it where where you can see the mouth, and really the ultimate thing with masks for deaf people that rely on lip reading or the basics of it, I cannot imagine. It's completely messed up that they communicate on that, and now we've covered that option for them. I'm going to go ahead and unmute Nishimta, Mama Russo. Mom, either. I've unmuted you. Go ahead. She still got her hand up, or did I ask her a question before?
No, you didn't finish your question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
Mr. Gonzalez, thank you. Appreciate you being here and taking the time. I had a follow-up question. First of all, I'm watching all these in the chat, and the story that she's telling about armed people coming in while she's waiting for her son just absolutely crushes me. And so I just can't handle the whole thing. But my follow-up question to what Anthony had said to you or asked you about the masks is, I am going to go to the other side of it with the vaccines, which is there are many of us who have allergies and sensitivities to a lot of medications. And for everything that's being said today, you're saying, well, this, isn't, I don't see a federal thing because they would have done it already. But when you hear things like what Rebecca was saying, down the pipe, it feels like somewhere along the way, we're going to be mandated somehow, whether it's surreptitiously or not, to take these vaccines. And so then the question becomes, and I don't think it's arisen yet, which is there going to be medical exemptions to these vaccines? Do you know anything about that?
Well, up front, no, I don't know about any exemptions, but it gets back to if you listen to what they say, that, when you go to the store, you're on the honor system as to whether or not you have taken the vaccine. So it's almost like it's kind of hard to take them serious, because if they were really serious about you having to have a vaccine to come in their store without a mask, then you would want to see that proof, right? But they're not. They're basically, the stores are starting to fold one after another, at least in my state where I live. And so to basically say, you're on the honor system, we're going to assume you got it if you're walking in here without a mask, is really sending a signal that we can't enforce this, in my opinion. So we're not even going to bother asking you for proof of it.
Sounds good. Well, let's hope.
Yes.
I mean, right. The mask is out there. You can see it. The vaccine certainly is not. Somebody wrote in there, you can identify as vaccinated. And yes, I have the shirt that says I identify as vaccinated.
From Primetime Patriots.
Yes, from Primetime Patriots. But yeah, it is a concern. I mean, I've had several patients over the years. I've treated a lot of patients with sensitivity. People are talking about with people with asthma and these masks. I look at this whole thing and just want to crawl into a cave. So.
But I mean, it's crazy just to simply say, okay, we value this vaccine issue so much, we're just going to let it be an honor system thing. It's that important, right? Then where's your vaccine card? But they're not doing that.
Well, let's pray that it never gets to that point. Thank you.
Okay. Right.
All right. So I just realized we also have a second guest in here. The Joel Madison on the name is what confused me, but I realized the shirt, it's all good. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. We do have our next guest, and Anthony, if you want to say, I know these questions clearly went very much into the vaccination and the legal ramification side. If you can hang out, if there's any trickle over questions, that'd be great. And then I'm going to introduce our next guest as well. Darius is, there we go. He changed. I was like, that looks like Darius, but his name was Joel in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick intro on him, and then we'll unmute him and let him speak. But I see on his website, he has a Being the Change shirt, not just Be the Change, but Being It, which is actually kind of a very clever idea. Darius has always been devoted to the American people.
Before you go ahead now, because I don't want to interrupt you. I got to run, but I just want your folks to understand that, you know, our institutions have been under attack, and the one that people have always given high marks to have been our court systems. And our court system, you know, when you hear the word due process and you hear the word equal protection under the law, that is something that's concerning me as a lawyer, because there's been laws now that are you know, there's you know, if you look at the New York bail reform issue and you look at certain laws, I think it was Blake brought up the fact that, you know, something is not being followed up on anymore. Keep an eye on that, because understand this, that the legislative bodies in a way control the court system, and they control the court system because they control their budgets. And so when that court needs to, you know, when the judiciary submits their budget, state of Florida, it's up to the legislature to approve it. Governor signs it. So I know we're all concerned with a lot of other things, the mask and the vaccines or whatever, but watch what goes on with your local court systems, more importantly, because at a federal level, you know, that's one thing. And the Supreme Court is under the same, you know, same budgetary issues as any other court. But keep an eye on that, because there is a line of attack on the court systems, not so much in the civil courts, but you see it in the criminal courts by state attorneys that have been elected and then deciding not to enforce certain laws or certain penalties and so on and so forth. But due process and equal protection should not be an equity issue. That is a law. That is something for everyone. And if our judiciary falls, we're going to be in a world of it. So that's all I want to do.
Anthony, before I let you go, I have an actually non-vaccinated question. If you can have 2 minutes, just real quick.
Sure.
So, question for you. Asking for a friend. We've been talking a lot about the medical side. This might be more of a civil issue in terms of employment for somebody that voices opinions on social media. As long as there's no true hate speech, or they voice their conservative opinions, and they are either in a place of employment or in a place of as an independent contractor. And I'm assuming there's two different ways to look at that. What kind of rights do the person have if they have been let go, threatened at work, saying, please do not share your views on social media anymore? Is there any rights concerning that or precedents?
Well, like I said at the beginning, I'm not an employment law lawyer, but I'll give you this. A lot of people sign contracts for employment, whether they be independent contractors or actual employees. Start with your contract. Look at what's in that contract. If you're going to take that job, look at that. Look at the human resource. If there's a human resource manual, brochure, whatever it is, look what it says in there, right? And then ultimately, I mean, because most states are silent on the issue of social media and your employment, right? Now, in a right to work state like Florida, one of your guests, I mean, one of your viewers said it right. There are right to work states. They can fire you, right? And then whether there's ramifications out of it, that's a whole nother thing. But for those who are looking to see if they have legal recourse, really, you have to look at, do you have an employment contract? Is there a human resource manual that discusses this? And you're right, you're seeing it more and more, and it seems to be going one direction, not the other. Right. Most people think, oh, I'm free to put on Facebook, whatever I want to put on there, but it could be in violation of a contract they signed or a human resource policy that they were aware of when they took that job.
Excellent. Anthony, thank you so much for being here. Go ahead and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. We actually have enough people to clap. You guys can all clap now. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Hey, it was fun. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. And,
great. Thank you, guys.
From this point, we've got another guest I'm about to intro. He'll give an intro on himself. Also, feel free to ask questions. I know that poor Suni in Japan is fading. So if you have any questions for PTP, whether it's Blake or Suni, Casey, me, or of course our next guest, which is Darius Mayfield, please feel free to put that in the comment box. I will introduce Darius, and then Lauren again will explain how to raise your hand, do all that stuff as well. So our next guest is Darius Mayfield. He's been devoted to the American public, always has been. And that's what he believes being a political candidate is all about. Years of experience as a local businessman and active philanthropist, Darius makes positive changes in the lives of families, veterans, seniors, and young people alike, which he is now taking to his politics. It's this intense dedication, passion, and devotion that fuels his fight for change. Explore more about Darius if you want to actually ever head to his website, which we suggest. But right now I want to intro Darius. Thank you so much for being here. Give a little background on who you are and what your feelings are on this whole Take Back America.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure you can hear me. You can hear me good?
Perfect.
All right, awesome. And I apologize about the name on there. I'm actually on my cousin's computer because I'm actually in El Paso right now. We came down here to visit the border, which I guess we'll get into a little bit later. But just to introduce myself, my name is, as you said, Darius Mayfield. I am currently a congressional candidate for New Jersey's 12th congressional district in the great state of New Jersey, the best state in the union, I like to say. And I am a pro-Trump America First candidate. And I love what you guys are doing as far as, taking back our country, because that's what we're all trying to do right now, from people like myself to people like Billy Prempe, who you guys had on yesterday. That's my guy who's running in the 9th congressional district. And just want to say hi, Suni. I got the interview with her last week. She's awesome. Been seeing you on IG and everything. And, there's a lot going on in the world, man. And what I like to say is, what a time to be alive. I love it. I know some people look at it a different way, but I think this is probably the most amazing time for all of us to be alive and to get a lot of different things done. And as you said, one of my hashtags is hashtag being the change we want to see, which is in cooperation with the American cleanups I do, where I've gone to cities up and down the East Coast. I was inspired by Mr. Scott Pressler, who started doing cleanups right after President Trump famously came on and talked about how the city of Baltimore was just corrupt and dirty. And Scott Pressler decided to go out there and do a cleanup. And when I saw that, I was really inspired by what he did. I sent him a DM on Twitter. And that night, he told me to give him a call. And about 30 days later, I was doing a cleanup of my own. Since then, we've done cleanups in Philadelphia 3 times. I've done cleanups in Newark, New Jersey, Paterson, New Jersey with Billy Prempe, Camden, New Jersey. And we're also doing a bunch of cleanups this year in those same towns. And, one of the things I like to say about that is, in these cleanups, these are all urban cities with a lot of Black and brown people in these cities. And when I do these cleanups, obviously I'm a conservative, a strong conservative, a Trump Republican. So it's typically myself and a lot of MAGA hat wearing conservatives in the middle of the hood doing these cleanups. And that's significant because you listen to people like MSNBC, you listen to the shows like CNN, you would think we wouldn't be allowed to do something like that. You would think there would be problems. You think that we'd probably get attacked and things of that sort. Well, those are all lies. And I'm here to encourage people to stop listening to those lies and understand that there's nothing but love and unity out here. In fact, when we were in Camden, one of the things that inspired me most was myself and my partner for my podcast, Not Black, Not White American podcast, Miss Priscilla Comfrey. We were doing an interview, and one of the citizens of that town walked up to us and just started crying. And all she said was, "We never expected for you guys to be out here." And that really touched my heart. It really just shows how empathetic some people are, how much change, how much they actually want change for themselves, regardless of what the media is trying to put out there at the end of the day. And that's why we continue to do these things. We actually were able to pick up over 100 tons of trash in these type of neighborhoods in a little bit over a year. And, you know, it's just been really inspiring. And honestly, I think that's what it takes to take our country back. Empathy. Especially, I'm assuming that most people here are probably conservatives and Republicans. It's time for us to show this country, not just conservatives, not just white people, but Black people, brown people, independents, Democrats, that we care. We have empathy. We care about them. We care about their plight, and we care about making America great again at the end of the day. And that's what this is really all about. And I think conservatives have the heart to do that. I think conservatives have the intelligence to do that. And I think there's a lot of empathy being shown now. And I'm just here to continue to further that message and push that message further as we expand this party, because I do believe that President Donald Trump expanded this party beyond its wildest beliefs, beyond its wildest dreams, whether it was the gay community, the Black community, the brown community. There's a lot of people that are really excited, energized. And I can tell you right now, one thing I'm looking forward to, and one reason that I decided to jump into this congressional race, and for those that don't know, I'll actually be running against Maxine Waters' best friend, Miss Bonnie Watson Coleman. And one of the reasons I decided to jump into this race is because I started to see that energy. You know, during President Trump's time, we threw MAGA rallies in New Jersey. As I mentioned before, we have people like Billy Prempe that are excited and bringing a lot of energy to this state. We have a very contentious gubernatorial race going on in New Jersey right now between Mr. Jack Ciattarelli, Phil Rizzo, and Her Singh. And there's a lot of energy, man. There's a lot of people waking up. There's a lot of people in the younger generation that are really excited by what the president was able to accomplish. And we all just want to get out here and start being the change we want to see. So I'm glad to be a part of this movement. I'm glad to be one of the people in the forefront of this movement to just really start pushing us in the right direction. Because as my shirt says, at the end of the day, we're not Black, not white, American. And I really believe that. And one thing I like to, tell people out there is, I know there's a lot of people out there, whether it's the media or politicians, that so easily try to divide us nowadays. They're finding different ways, whether it's pitting white versus Black, gay versus straight, white versus Asian, whatever it is. I will continue, and I pledge this to you, and I promise to you, I will continue to find ways to keep pulling us together, bring us all together so we can make America great again. So I'm honored to be here with you guys. And, I'm looking forward to answering some questions and talking some more and making this a good time. And thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Darius. All right. So here's a couple things, a couple disclaimers. Lauren's going to go ahead and give some instructions. First off, Darius, there's a lot of people wanting to see the whole shirt. Can you show the,
Sure. Hold on, let's see if we can do this. Sorry, guys. I'm like, all right, let's see. Not Black, not white, American. And then at the bottom, it says American Cleanup, which is the name of my organization that I started, where we're doing cleanups all across the East Coast. And obviously Scott goes all across this country. Does that look good? Can you see it?
Absolutely. That's perfect. All right. That's great. So we have a lot of people in here. We've got about 150 people watching. I want to take this time to give a reminder. If people are wondering why Casey's picture looks the way that it does, it's because he is also on there. It's back to being normal, Casey. He's actually checking on donations. I can tell you on my end, we are up to $4,100 for our two charities, which is the 22 Kill. 22 Kill is a veterans charity started out with the 22 people they found that committed suicide per day as former service members, and they also are with first responders as well. Empower Me deals with human trafficking as well as getting kids the soft skills in order to enter the workforce. Both great charities. We set a goal of $5,000. We are $900 short right now. Casey is looking to see how we're doing on Venmo and on Venmo and Cash App, and the PayPal I just put up on the main screen for those of you watching on all of our social media channels. Casey, I'm going to unmute you. Do you have any new numbers in front of you?
We haven't received any on Cash App or Venmo.
Got it. All right. So that's
started.
what I put the PayPal back up there. And to those that have donated in the last 30 minutes, I have sent you the Zoom link to be here. Excellent. All right. Feel free to start asking questions. Lauren is going to explain what to do on how to ask questions here in this Zoom. And Darius, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Darius. That's awesome. I love all the New Jersey we've been having. I don't have any particular ties to Jersey, but we've had such a Jersey crowd this weekend.
Jersey.
Yeah. So you guys, as we talked about before, if you are wanting to ask a question or anything like that, if you're on desktop, scroll to the bottom of the Zoom window and you'll have a reactions button, a little like happy face with a plus. That will have some like emoji options. You may have the raise hand option there. If not, hit participants and that sidebar pops out. Your name will have like a 3 dots or more option, and you may have the raise hand option there. I switched to my,
I decided to do that from this point forward.
I just got very, okay, continue.
Sorry,
I was like,
that was my
what
bad.
did I do?
Sorry.
And I just switched to my iPad because my laptop died. We talked about this yesterday. Someone gets to buy herself a new laptop this week. So on the iPad, which I believe will be what it looks like on your phones more likely, is you'll see the 3 dots option that says more. And then that's going to drop down a ton of options, including all those emoji reactions, the raise hand button, the chat, all of that. And if you're just really having struggles with the tech, throw a question into the chat and we can hopefully address it that way.
Love it. All right. Let's see what we got going back to the main gallery. What's
just loving all the conversation going on in the chat as well.
Yeah. It's hard to stay up with. Let's see. Let's see. I'm going to see if there's been any comments. Again, if you want, put it in the chat. If you don't want to say it out loud, we can ask it for you. And again, feel free to ask questions to Darius. Feel free to ask questions to Sudi, Blake, me, Casey, or the person that looks like me that's in Casey's box. All of that works. Let's see. First off, I'll start it off. New Jersey. So interestingly enough, Billy is in the same district that my family used to be around. So Billy's located in I think the 9th congressional district. Family in Woodridge area. My dad went to Lodi High, actually, 50 something years ago. In a state like New Jersey's an interesting state because I have family that's very conservative there. Back when I was a more of a liberal minded person, I would listen to them talk about the radio stations that they would listen to in the Rush Limbaughs. And I'd be like, oh God, it's such garbage. Cause I didn't really know how to listen back then. New Jersey is an interesting state because if you look at Southern New Jersey, it's considered one of the more still racist parts of the country. Haddonfield, New Jersey has one of the longest remaining KKK organizations in the country. And then you've got North Jersey is very, very liberal. Why is that state more than some of the others so split on their political beliefs and even more polarized than seeming the whole country?
Well, I to be honest with you, when it comes to ideology, when it comes to our everyday lives, I think the media and our politicians manipulate the minds of so many because we're not as polarized and different, not just in New Jersey, but this entire country as they'd like us to believe. I often like to remind people every day, whether it's here in New Jersey or in the mountains of Montana or in California, wherever it is, we all go to the stores every day. We all go to schools. We all interact all the time. And especially in my generation, I think the overwhelming majority of the people in my generation have never experienced racism in their life. They've seen it on the news, they've seen it on social media here and there with a story, but we haven't actually physically experienced it. So that's one of the things I like to have people understand, because we're all living in a fog right now when it comes to a lot of this stuff, because the media puts out so much misinformation that really shapes the hearts and the minds of so many. As you said, Southern Jersey is considered a little bit more conservative than, the rest of the state. And in fact, here in New Jersey, registered Democrats outnumber us more than 2 to 1 in this state. like anywhere else, man, it's a very diverse place. We're made up of a lot of different people, a lot of different ideologies. But at the end of the day, you know, this is one family. This is the New Jersey family. And again, we don't experience a lot of the things they try to perpetuate on the news and things of that sort. And I think that's one thing that this new energy that's rising is really starting to bring together and shed a light on. Because if you would have, you know, looked at somebody like me 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, you know, we could have sat here and said somebody like me would have never been accepted into the Republican Party or the Conservative Party because I just was too modern, too new school. But, you know, I can tell you right now, the majority of my support and the love comes from the conservatives in this state, the conservatives around this country. So although, yes, some of our ideology may be different, one thing I do know is at the end of the day, we all want the same things, whether you're a strong conservative in South Jersey, a staunch liberal in North Jersey, or, you know, a moderate in Central Jersey. We all want the same things. We might have different ways of getting there sometimes, and that's where the policy end of things comes in, but we all want the same thing, which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We want our freedoms, and we also want our kids and their kids to have better and more opportunities than we had. So what I like to do is take the element out of it of separating us, because politicians and Democrats especially already do that so well, whether, again, it's straight versus gay, it's black versus white. You know, at the end of the day, again, it's not black, not white American. We're one big American family at the end of the day. So even when it comes to my campaign, I kind of like to take the optics of those things out of it and just let people know at the end of the day, I'm for the American people. I'm for the American family. I'm for the progress of this country, and I'm for an America First agenda. And that resonates on both sides of the aisle. And I know, you know, especially here in New Jersey, I'm going to need to keep posterizing that message and putting it out there, because I'm going to need the support of not only people on the right, but I'm going to need people in the middle. I'm going to need people on the left and all over this country to actually win this district. This is, since 1999, this district has been very heavily Democratic. The incumbent, Ms. Bonnie Watson Coleman, last year, she won about almost 70% of the vote here in this district alone, compared to 30% on the Republican side. So, you know, for me, again, it's the American family, whether you're black, white, brown, conservative, liberal. I want everybody's vote. And I want them to understand that just because I'm a Republican doesn't mean that I have your worst interests at heart. Doesn't mean that I'm here to hurt you, especially when it comes to those Democrats of color, which my family is made up of. The majority of my friends growing up are made up of. In fact, until I got into politics in 2016 when Trump ran, if you looked at my Facebook, it was literally, I would say, 99% Democrats on there, because those were my family, those were my friends and things of that sort. Now, you know, those numbers have reversed, where I got a whole bunch of conservatives and MAGA, you know, patriots on my page. But I'll tell you this, one thing I don't see is a lot of infighting between even those groups. And if you watch the news, you would think that it's just going to be holy hell and, you know, nobody likes this one, they don't like this one, but it's not like that. And what I think it takes is sensible people coming to the forefront of our country, to the forefront of our states, to the forefront of our politics, and speaking like the regular people we are, to make people understand these things and realize these things, because that perception of hate and division is really just that at the end of the day. To me, it's perception. We all want the same things at the end of the day. So I love the supposed, I don't know if you were, I don't know if that was, if you were being facetious or not with the KKK down there in South Jersey. Are you being serious?
No, I was being serious. So funny enough, I had to do some research, and we'll get to Eric's question next. About 10 years ago, or about 11 or 12 years ago, I was doing an event in Haddonfield, and I was working with a buddy of mine that was black, and it was the weirdest thing. Like, people were still very nice to him, but it was different. Like, we were giving out free product, and at the end of the day, like, we had extra, and he goes to hand it out, and they would not take it from him, even though it was free. And I was like, this is free stuff. What the hell? So I go do it, and then find out, when we told somebody that story later, they're like, oh, you do realize where you are? And I'm like, I don't. They're like, Haddonfield is still considered one of the last ultra racist cities in the country. Look up the KKK in Haddonfield. And I did. And at the time, and I've looked it up recently out of curiosity, and it's still a kind of a backdoor community out in Haddonfield. So I found that interesting.
Well, I'll tell you this, you said the key word there, one of the last ones. And, that's what it is at the end of the day. And, I just said this recently, anybody that is not willing to acknowledge the progress that we made in this country is not serious about us coming together as an American family. Just for myself, you go back 200, 250 years ago, myself would have been a slave in this country. So I went from, my ancestors and people being a slave in the country like this to, recently becoming the youngest sales manager in a top 25 auto group to about 3-4 years ago, becoming the first Black general manager in the third fastest growing auto group in this country, which was the general manager of Manhattan Volkswagen. So yes, I have heard some stories about certain places in New Jersey, and like I said, I'm glad to hear you say one of the last. I actually had a friend that I was in high school with, and God bless him, that was actually attacked by a couple of skinheads in the city of Edison, New Jersey, which is in central Jersey, and they attacked him with bats and things like this, and he's hasn't been the same ever since. So what I say to that is, we know that racism still exists, not just in America, not just in New Jersey, but all over this world. The first time I actually ever experienced racism in my life was a couple of years ago, and that was with a brown person, not a white person. That was the first time I'd ever been called the N-word in my life, and this was a brown person that had immigrated here from another country. So my personal experience, whether it's with police or white people, has not ever been negative ones, when it comes to racism and stuff like that. But yes, we do understand there are pockets of that. But I believe the more we keep perpetuating messages like not Black, not white American, like what you guys have, be the change, as long as we keep showing that empathy and growing this party and just growing the consciousness of the American people and just being the people we are, because everybody that I see here on this platform, whether it's you, Lauren, Eric, everybody here, you guys seem like very, young people. And I know most of us, I hope I can speak for most of us when I say, we didn't grow up with a lot of racism. We knew Black people growing up. We knew brown people growing up. We knew everybody, and we all got along. Those are not things that we had to deal with. And what you find now is you see these politicians in the media trying to take us backwards in a sense. And we need to make sure, as this generation, as the millennial generation, as a little bit older, a little bit younger, that we stand up and we keep progressing from the times that we grew up in, where we really didn't have to deal with a lot of stuff, and not let a lot of these old heads in our politics and in our media start to divide us and separate us and take us backwards, because the day that happens is the day that we lose this country and we start going backwards forever.
That's great. I'm going to ask Eric ask the next question. What's interesting, exactly what you just said, is if you looked at our panel that we had speaking yesterday and today, it was incredibly diverse, more diverse than even America's percentages by and far. And we've had, and it's all conservatives. And it's crazy to think of that when you look at some of the places like the Billy Prempas and the rest of the politicians that we had that were minorities. They're losing to Democrats that are the old white men. And it's funny to think that diversity between people it's so pigeonholed that conservatives are old white men, and that's not the case. Our country has a bunch of diverse, young, Asian, Black, Latino people that are running on a conservative ticket, but they're not winning because the liberal American is still fighting for the virtue signaling white Democrats. And it's really daunting. But you, Darius, are the way that you speak and the way that you're talking about this, it's what is going to change this country, hopefully next year, the year after, and the years to come. So thank you for that.
I think, honestly, not only that, I think we're already doing it, man. Like I said, when we all experience our everyday life, and Rita, you're hilarious. You're not representing the old. There was nothing meant by that. You're amazing. You guys are funny. I see the comments popping up, but we don't experience these things. People really, over the last some odd years, we've really been losing some critical thinking in this country, where people just automatically believe what they see on TV. They automatically take what our politicians say for face value. Understand one thing: these media talking heads, these politicians, they are so disconnected from the reality of the everyday man and woman, the regular American in this country. All you have to do, I challenge everybody, the next time you go to the grocery store, just take a look around and just see how many people of different faiths, of different colors, of different genders are around you. And then think to yourself, do I see any problems? Do I see any hate? Do I feel any hate? You won't, you don't. That's the overwhelming majority of everybody's life every single day in this country. It's not what these politicians are trying to paint where it's black versus white, is this one versus that one. These things are not true, but the reason they perpetuate these things is because they know change is coming. They understand that this generation, the generation that I come from, the generation you guys come from, this is the freest generation that this country has ever saw. You know, I told somebody yesterday, I'm so free, I don't know no better than to not say, you know, certain things. We're going to say what we want. We're going to do what we want. We're going to act the way we want. We don't know any better because this is the way we were born. This is the way we were raised, and we're going to continue to be that way. And I know for a fact that these politicians in power, they're scared of that. They understand what's coming right now. You know, I've gotten word that even my opponent, Bonnie Watson, I don't want to use the word scared, but, you know, is even really thinking about what I'm doing because they weren't expecting somebody like me, you know, to come out the gate and do the things that I'm doing and represent the things that I represent. I come from the hood. I come from a single parent household with a little sister where we were ducking under tables while they were shooting outside. I was on welfare, Section 8 growing up to, again, accomplishing the things that I was just talking about. So if I can do it, I know anybody can do it. And one of the reasons why I connect so well with the Republican Party is because that's their message. You can do it. You can take your life by the horns and do anything you want to do in this great country. You do not have to be a victim all your life, as where the Democrats are more on the emotional side of things. And every time you turn on an MSNBC, every time you turn on the CNN, you have somebody on there telling black and brown kids, especially, why they can't do something. The boogeyman's going to come get them. The KKK is going to come get them. They're going to stop their progress. Well, that's not true. I'm a living example of that. And so what we were talking about before with the KKK and everything, I just want everybody to remember there's a lot more of us, meaning real Americans, you know, big-hearted Americans that love all people, than there is them. That is a dying generation. That is a dying crowd. And again, you know, we know racism exists, but I can tell you, just coming from New Jersey, I guess Hattonfield, whatever it is, you know, they have a population out there, but that's not something I've ever seen or experienced personally. And I know a lot of white people, black people all over this country, and most people probably don't even know about what you just told me. And that's something I'll definitely look into, just to, you know, be aware more on that. But at the end of the day, I know for a fact that there's a lot more of us than them. So, you know, good luck to you guys, because you're definitely a dying breed.
Thank you. All right, Eric, sorry I asked a couple questions in between. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and the floor is yours to ask your question. Go ahead.
All good. Actually, a very simple question for Darius specifically here is, you know, I hear you talk a lot about what you're doing now. I hear you talk a little bit about your past. What was the inflection point for you? Because it sounds like your group of people that you spent time with, whether it was family, friends, just even to the environment you grew up in, this sounds like it's, you know, kind of typical heavy Democrat, blue leaning area. With, you know, kind of the mental traps that come with that. I want to know what your inflection point, specifically yours, was, and then bring that back for us, because one of the things we do here that I've really enjoyed with the Primetime Patriots and Be the Change is we look at our action on a personal level. And I want to hear from you where that personal inflection point was. And if you can kind of feather that out for everybody to understand that we can all make those opportunities for ourselves, and also how you've impacted people around you with that specific change.
Well, you know, I'll start early. So, you know, I often like to tell people when I was very young as a kid, 3rd, 4th grade, my mother used to ask my sister and I when we came home from school every day what we wanted to be when we grew up. And my answer every time was President of the United States of America. Mm-hmm. Not that I actually knew what that meant back then, but I guess I just had some type of political inclination even back then. So I think, you know, as far as the political side of things, it started in me early, and just knowing that there was something inside of me that one day wanted to make a change and wanted to be a part of the progression of this country. I would say the real inflection point for me came when I was probably about 17, 18 years old. And this is why I think I'm such a unique candidate and somebody that can bridge the divide and bridge the gap between whether it's black or white, Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal, because I was a bad kid. And a lot of that probably, you know, had to do with, you know, not having a father there and, you know, having some angst within myself that I didn't necessarily understand at the time. Thank God for me, I come from a very big family. My grandmother and grandfather had 15 kids. I have 80 something first cousins. So, later in life, as I'm growing up a little bit, I had like my uncles there, strong men in my life to help discipline me and keep trying to steer me back on the right track. But yet, again, at the end of the day, I grew up without a father. So, there was that rebellion inside of me. And that's why I understand the plight of so many, even on the other side, especially, young Black and brown kids coming up in certain conditions that, they don't even understand their self at the end of the day, because I lived it. I went through it. And not all of them are fortunate enough to maybe have those strong families around them that can help rein them in and, bring them back to where they need to be and encourage them to be, more. So I definitely want to serve as an example for those type of people and continue to speak to them. I got some people ask me to do some tours and, talk to those type of communities, which I'm sure we'll start doing. So I want to serve an example. But I was getting into a lot of trouble, as a kid, whether, smoking a lot of weed back in the day when I was a kid and, getting arrested for stuff like that. And when I was 17 or 18 years old, I actually, and not to blame it on this, but, my uncle, who was a 25-year veteran in the Marlboro Police Department, actually passed away. And I'll never forget this. It was the day of his funeral. And I don't know if it was something inside of me from that day, but me and my cousins decided to go out that night and do something very stupid. We ended up getting arrested that night for what we were doing. And when that happened, the majority of the people that I got arrested with, their parents were pretty affluent. So they were able to get out, in like a couple of days to a week and, set their trial, and they went through what they went through. Obviously, I was still coming from a very humble beginnings, and my mother did not have access to all those resources. So I ended up spending about 2 months in the county jail waiting for my trial to begin and go through these things. And I can tell you this, that was probably, honestly, I'm thankful to this day that I went through that in my life, because I was on such a negative path. I was just out of control, that if I had not gone through something like that, I probably wouldn't be here speaking to you today. I would have kept going down that path, just getting worse and worse and doing some crazy stuff. And that really just set me down for a minute. And, when you go into something like that, and when you first go in, you're 23-1. And for anybody that doesn't know what that means you sit in the cell for 23 hours, you get to come out for an hour a day and, eat or whatever the case is. And if you guys remember back to what I was saying before, this is the freest generation ever. So when a kid like me gets sat down for 23 hours in one day and you're told you can't do this, you can't do that, and you got to listen to what we say, it's life-changing, to say the least. It's very, very life-changing. And, I'm proud to say since that time, my mom actually was able to get us a very good lawyer. I got off and everything was cool after that, but I have not had contact with police since that time, because I truly changed my heart, my mind, and, my consciousness after going through that experience. And it really just changed me for the better at the end of the day. And since then, I've pretty much dedicated my life not only to progressing my life and being the change that we want to see, and just building up my my career in business in the automotive industry, but also starting to donate my time, my resources, and my money to help other people. I've been very instrumental and done a lot of things with the Down syndrome community, with the autism community. I told you guys before, I do the cleanup. So we, go into inner city neighborhoods and do things with that. We do, anytime we want, we do galas, we do fashion shows to benefit different charities and different organizations, whether it's the Alzheimer's organization and association in New York, which I did an event with Miss New York, to, again, Down syndrome and autism organizations like Gigi's Playhouse in New York, which is the largest Down syndrome organization in the entire state of New York. My fiance and partner, Saudia, was the board of directors on the board of directors for that, and was the chair for the gala for that. So we've done a lot of things for them. So, since that time, I've definitely dedicated a lot of my time and my resources to just being the change we want to see. And, people know me as the guy that, if somebody has an idea for an event, I love doing philanthropy work. If they have an idea, they want me to support an organization, we'll get together, we'll support them. We'll use our resources to bring in donations, funds, bring out important people to speak, whatever it is. So I think, again, just to answer your question directly, that was really that inflection point for me, going through that as a kid and really going through that pretty traumatic experience to say, you know what, Darius, You come from a pretty, I know you may have been born in different conditions than some other members of your family, but you come from a very affluent family. You come from a very strong family background, and you need to live up to expectations and make sure that you take this experience, learn from it, grow from it, and really use it as an example to go out there and help and encourage other people to do the same.
Thank you for answering. I just want to I want to add to that and just say, that is a very personal experience, one that some of us can relate to, probably some of us can't, but ultimately the extrapolation of the lesson there is simple. Is you saw a point in your life where you can make a change. I think we all have. And I would just encourage everybody that's participating today, look at where your life is today compared to where it was 6 months ago. This movement has gotten people up, moving, donating money, looking for causes to support. We all have reasons, guys. And I think Darius is a good example of somebody who's living it, not just talking about it. And I want to say thank you. You encourage all of us, this whole panel, everybody that's here doing this, participating this way, is showing movement. And that's the most important part of all of these processes. Do something. You can't just sit around and talk about it. We have to do something. So Darius, thank you for answering my question. I just wanted to add that.
No problem. Thank you. And, just you hit it on the head, man. It's all about redemption. It doesn't matter where you come from, it matters where you're going and, the effort you put into actually getting there and the good you do along the way. When we do these cleanups in the hood and things like that, yes, we get donations here and there, but anything as far as expenses, it comes out of my pocket, and I don't mind doing it because I love giving back that much. I love seeing people's smiles on other people's faces, to the point where, my fiance, I get mad whenever she tries to celebrate my birthday. I don't want to be celebrated. I get joy in helping other people, bringing smiles to other people. Like when it's my birthday, great, happy birthday. And then we kind of go on about our day, to be honest with you, because I really enjoy helping other people, because there's so many people out there that do need to be helped. There's so many people out there that, need our help, need our encouragement, because all of us here, especially myself, we're extremely blessed, man. And not everybody's in that same situation, which is actually one of the things that I took from visiting the border down here in El Paso. Now, I'm a man of law and order. So I think at the end of the day, you need to go through our laws to get here, to enjoy this life here in America. You need to come here legally and things like that. But going across that border, standing right at the wall, looking right across, through that border to the city of Juarez, and see how they're living out there, and to see the rape houses out there, which was the most it was just really sad to see. I never even knew what rape houses were until we went there yesterday. And just for those that don't know, there's basically these houses that are literally right on the other side of the wall, and we got to experience it yesterday, where you're hear music blasting, whether it's at night or the middle of the day. And the reason they're blasting that music is because they're inside of those houses raping women. And the reason they blast the music is so you can't hear the screams of those women in those houses. And that was one of the most powerful things that I learned yesterday. One of the saddest things I was able to, experience over there, and to just see people. A lot of these women are women that are trying to get across the border to come over here into this country. And that's what they have to go through in order to get the help from some of these people to come over here. And just to see those things, it's just, it's just sad. And it just lets you know how blessed that we actually are over here. And it also brings some empathy to their plight and makes you understand, like, we understand why some people are trying to make it here. But at the end of the day, like I was telling somebody last night, the people of Mexico and places like this need to start putting the onus back on their government, because we know a lot of people in their government are very corrupt, like we heard yesterday from the people we were at the border with. And it's time to put that pressure on the government, just like we do over here in America. I don't agree with the people going inside the Capitol on January 6th, but I was there at the Capitol. I was on top of the Capitol. We were singing to put that pressure on our government here in America. And people in these other countries need to start stepping up and doing the same thing, because it's countries for the people, by the people. So I would just encourage, whether it's here in America, people in El Salvador, Mexico, and things like that, we really need to start galvanizing everyday regular people, because people need to realize at the end of the day, there's a lot more of us than there is them. And when I say that, I mean politicians and these crooked people. For every one politician in this country, what is there, a million or two of us in this country? So at the end of the day, we have all the power, and they'll do everything to make you think that we don't, by keeping us divided, by pitting white versus black, gay versus straight, whatever the case is, because they want to retain that power. But at the end of the day, there is so many more of us than there is them, and it's time for us to start taking our countries back and making our politicians and our leaders that are trying so hard to divide us to start realizing that, and let them know that it's not going to stand anymore, and we will do what needs to be done to make sure we all get the progress we're looking to see.
Thank you, Darius. All right, we've got another question from the real SUNY Blakes, aka Blake Veglia. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question for Darius.
So Darius, I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
I kind of like to play devil's advocate and like think about like future. So you're running for New Jersey's 12th district congressional,
Yes,
correct? Okay, so I'm kind of like thinking, because I'm a numbers guy, analyticals. That's just like what I love. But my question to you is, well, first off, it's sad that someone who's not an elected official is doing more in their district than the actual elected official. Isn't that I feel like that's pretty sad. That you're doing more for the actual community than the people who are elected into office, which just shows volumes that you don't have to be elected in office to make a difference in your community, which I think is a beautiful thing. But looking at numbers wise, looking at how your district, because I was looking at numbers up and down, comparing your district kind of to like what Kim Klacik faced during hers. So I'm really like not concerned, but like, she had a heavily amount of donations poured into her district. $6.4 million was poured into her district, and she ended up losing by 70 to 28%. So it's a large margin, but a lot of money poured into into a congressional race that wasn't even close. And what I'm thinking as a collective group, because I think the more seats we have is obviously better, but in my mind, I'm like, wow, we could have spent so much of that money into these tight races that were by minuscule, less than 1%. So I'm trying to think going forward, how do we, because I don't think it's going to be changed in one race. And I think that's like I don't think it's going to happen in one, election cycle. It's not going to happen in 2 election cycles. I think these strong Democratic stronghold districts are going to be a slow, progression of people flipping, because if you think realistically, you're going to have to flip 25% of the vote in that district to win, which is, it's possible. We saw what happened in Miami-Dade County when the Latino vote came out in numbers and turned a 80-20% into a closer 60-40. It's a 20% shift. So I think it's definitely possible. How do you think moving forward, and how can we get that? Because it's a big mountain to climb, but everything is possible. But how are you going to campaign differently than Kim Klacik did in her district?
Well, first, I want to say thank you to Kim Klacik. I was actually just with her in Baltimore a couple of days ago. I'm a part of her Red Renaissance movement, and I'm happy to have the endorsement of Miss Kim Klacik, and very honored to know her and be a part of this, because she's so selfless and so gracious in what she's doing. And that's actually what her Red Renaissance movement is all about, starting to put resources behind these districts that people think can't be flipped and things like that. Because one of the things she found, and I hear from a lot of people, is and listen, not to talk down on the Republican Party, but in a lot of these places, they just gave up hope themselves. And, they don't really put the resources behind the candidates in these districts to make the impact that needs to be made. I think that's starting to change now, especially with a candidate like myself coming out. So, I first just want to start by definitely thanking her for what she's doing. And I think she's going to be instrumental in me not only fundraising, but getting the word out and just spreading the word and bringing my message to the consciousness of everyone. So as far as what else you were saying, I understand this is not going to be an easy task. I can tell you this, I've never gone into anything to lose. And when I decided to throw my hat in, because it took some time for me to decide to want to do this, I knew when I did this, I was going in this to win. That's why I announced so early. Our next election isn't until next year, and I announced at the end of January this year. So we have almost 2 years to actually run this race and get the word out there. Fortunately for me, even before I announced, I was already in somewhat on the national stage, where I had been on CNN, Fox News. I've done multiple interviews on OAN, and I've been doing cleanups before I even did this. So in and around this state, places on the East Coast, a lot of people do know of me and some of the work that I've done out here. One of the interesting thing is I heard Joe Collins speak the other day at Kim Klasik's event, and he's the gentleman that's running in California against Maxine Waters. And one of the interesting things I heard him say is when he first started, that was a D+50 Democratic district. When he ran, it went down to a D+24. That's a significant change. Yep. That's a significant progress. So as you said, it starts somewhere. I think for me, what's going to be key is the way I speak, the things that I've done, where I come from in life, and what people know of me. I hear a lot of people tell me often, especially Black conservatives and even, white conservatives, that a lot of people make a lot of negative comments on different posts or, when they're with them in person, whether it's calling them coons or Uncle Toms and things like that. I never really experienced that. And I think, listen, of course, there's somebody here or there that, will say something, but not on the level where I see a lot of these people saying they experienced that. And I think it's on part because people know me. They know where I come from. I'm not that conservatives don't listen to this, but I'm the type of conservative, all I listen to is hip hop, right? So I'm like, I like to say like a new school kind of conservative that, keeps his ear to the ground and appreciate where he comes from, but at the same time can speak to the ills of what's going on there without being called a hypocrite or an Uncle Tom, because I come from these same conditions. I literally come from living on Section 8. I literally come from growing up on food stamps and welfare. These aren't things that I'm just telling you just to, sound a certain way. This is how I grew up. This is where I came from. So when people see where I've gone from there and the things that I've been able to accomplish in my life, I think that blunts some of the blows that other people may receive, when trying to do this same thing, because people understand where my heart is, people understand where my mind is, and people know that when I talk about progressing in the inner cities, when I talk about holding these politicians accountable and stopping the corruption, they know I mean it because I'm speaking from the heart and I'm a regular person, which is more of what we need. So I'm starting to more so tailor my message. And I like to say this a lot, where I'm not just looking for the endorsements and the votes of conservatives and Republicans. I want the votes of independents. I want the votes of Democrats. And I'm here to help everybody. That's why it's not Black, not white American. So maybe, and I'm not in people's heads and minds, but maybe they just feel there's really an authenticity when I speak about these things. I'm not just saying this to say this. I know when it comes to conservatives, especially Black conservatives, sometimes they maybe tip more conservative and just speak on one side of the aisle all the time. I put up a post a couple of weeks ago where I was speaking to the conservative community, and I said, listen, basically this: if you think I'm the type of person that's going to fall on one side of the aisle every single time, stop following me, because we're not the same. I'm not afraid to call out the ills on either side. I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat at the end of the day. And I think that's something that President Trump really opened up for us by him promoting things like criminal justice reform, for him talking about what was going on in places like Baltimore. He opened the gates for us to start exposing these things, and for conservatives to really accept these messages and understand the plight of people like this and be more empathetic to that. So I credit a lot of this to President Trump and what he did. I credit me even running for office to President Trump 1,000%. Again, in 2016, that was the first time I ever voted in my life in the history of this country, because I understood that when I heard that man, that he was a man of his word. He was a man that was going to either do or attempt to do exactly what he was telling us, rather than just giving us lip service. And since then, he's given us, especially for the Black community, opportunity zones where you can directly start to invest in these communities and get tax savings. And, we need to build upon that. But this is something, why hasn't a Democrat, put this on the table? Why didn't Barack Obama put this on the table, when he was president, but yet everybody wants to call him racist? He gave us criminal justice reform, where one of the more significant things for me was the fact that he basically flipped the Rockefeller drug laws on their heads. I come from the hip hop world, so I grew up listening to the Jay-Z's. My favorite artist is Nas. I remember hearing these guys talk about the Rockefeller drug laws, where, crack and cocaine were classified as two different things. And, if you were somebody that got caught with an ounce of cocaine, you might get probation. But if you got caught with an ounce of crack, you're going to jail for 30, 40, 50 years. Well, the criminal justice law that President Trump signed into law reversed that. So now crack and cocaine are on the same level with the same minimums, the same maximums. So I'm about seeing what people, the actions of people, watching what they do. And it didn't surprise me that President Trump did these things. This is the same guy that got praised by people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton back in the day for giving, black entrepreneurs loans when the banks in New York City and New Jersey wouldn't do that. And these people would come back to pay him back these loans. And he would say, you know what, you did what you said you were going to do. I'm proud of you. Keep the money. You don't even have to pay me back. So I understand where his heart is. And it's really about results at the end of the day. It's really about that action. So I will continue to keep speaking, to that action. And when it comes to the people he let out of jail, I mean, we already know over 90% of the people that were let out from this criminal justice reform were those people of color, especially Black people in this country. So we'll keep speaking to those successes. We'll keep reminding people that we're here to get real things done. And I heard you say something before where, it's going to be a slow process. Well, that's actually the narrative that I'm here to break. Bonnie Watson Coleman, the person that I'm running up against, she's been in politics for over 25 years. And you know what? Congratulations to her for becoming the first Black female to ever win a seat in our United States Congress in the state of New Jersey. But the progress that they're making has been too slow. And this is the year 2021 where we are free. We were born free. We want progress now, and we want it right away. And we will be unapologetic, and we will shoot straight every time. And we will start breaking the narrative and breaking the molds and getting this stuff done. And that's a leadership that we need now. And that's a leadership that we demand going forward.
Right. And so what I'm thinking, I was like, wow. So like, why don't a lot of these people, because the rhinos and the Republicans that are really, they don't believe in conservatism. So they obviously are siding with the Democrats. So why don't a lot of people come out there and say, oh, I'm going to be a Democrat, and you'll get the vote. A lot of people could just get the votes just because they have Democrat after their name, but initiate all conservative policies because, I mean, as a Democrat, they don't hold to their word anyway. So what would be any different than any of the other politicians? So like, my question is, we're not playing the game is what I'm thinking, because we just put people up and people just don't vote for people because they're Republican. They see the word Republican, they don't vote for it because they just vote Democrat, straight ticket. So why don't, as conservatives, start putting faces out there that say they're Democrats, even though they're not, just like how we have Mitt Romney, who's literally not a Republican, not a conservative, not an American first, but he's in our party. So I don't understand why we don't play the same game.
Well, it's funny you said that. I had a conversation about this recently. I was actually asked to seriously consider doing that when before I was going to run for office. I declined. And, part of the reason I declined is one, I would never turn my back on the constituency that got me to where I am now. I'm a Trump Republican. I'm actually I just came out a couple of weeks ago and let everybody know that I am the most pro-Trump candidate running in the entire state of New Jersey, whether it's the gubernatorial race, Congress, whatever it is. And, I just didn't want to turn my back on that constituency. I don't think a lot of them would have understood that if I came out as a Democrat after being
It's not even that you coming out as a Democrat. The whole campaign, you just say all the things that the liberals say. And then when you get in there, you vote the opposite.
Well, yes. Oh, I think just if I would have announced, like, even though they know me, if I would announce, okay, I'm going to run as a Democrat and try to explain that, it would have still been a little off-putting to some certain people that, throw so much support behind me. Because I can tell you this, conservatives in the MAGA movement have been behind me 1,000% since the 100%. Beginning. They know I've been, unrelenting in my support for conservative policies and our president. So I just want to tell them, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Another reason why I thought it was important for me to run as a Republican is because right now, I think there's Democrats, especially Black Democrats in this country, have been so propagated to the point where we don't understand our own power. So let's just go over a couple of numbers real quick. In this country, there's over 200 million white people in this country. There's about 50 to 60 million Hispanic people in this country. There's about 40 to 50 million Black people in this country. A lot of people don't realize that. So when you get to the other subset groups, let's say like Muslims, like Jewish people, there's only like 5 million Jewish people in this country. There's only a couple million Muslim people in this country. So I think one of the first things we need to do, especially within the Black community, is start waking people up to understand their power and understand that you voting on one side of the aisle and being subjugated to just one party is actually working against your interests in a very real way. And you can see it every time you go into one of these communities, whether it's the Camden, New Jerseys, the Newark, New Jerseys, the Philadelphia, New Jerseys, because these Democratic politicians are so corrupt and have been driving our cities and our towns into the ground for so long that I think it's time for people, especially in the Black community, to fully realize their power. And what that means is not just being a Democrat. You can be a Republican, because we already know, especially the older generation of Black people and in a lot of the new generation are inherently conservative in a lot of their values and a lot of their beliefs. So it's not about hiding behind a Democratic flag for me just to, like you said, come out and then do conservative policies. Right. No, I want people to start growing a heart. I want people to start understanding that they have the power. You have the power to be whoever you want to be in this country. That's why I'm so fearless in what I do. People tell me all the time, they're like, thank you for being so fearless. It takes a lot of courage to what you're doing. You know what? I stop them in their tracks every time, and I let them know that this has nothing to do with courage. I'm not more courageous than you. I'm just out here having fun, living my life. I was born free. I can do whatever I want. I can be affiliated with whatever party I want. I can say what I want. I can do what I want. So it's more about awakening the hearts and the minds of other people to make them realize that. And I can tell you right now, especially with having this disaster and joke of a president, Joe Biden, in there right now, he's doing the work for us. The longer Joe Biden stays in office, the better chance people like myself and other America First candidates have of winning. I can't tell you how many people in my family, how many people that are Democrats that I know have already said, I had one of my boys, and I won't expose him right now, but I had somebody call me last week after Joe Biden went through all this stuff, and we see what's going on with Israel, we see what's going on with the gas prices, all this stuff. They called me just to tell me this. They said, listen, I don't care what my family says going forward, it's Trump 2024. And this is a Democrat, right? They just called me just to say that. So there are people waking up to this plight. And I think it's so important, because we're the only race, speaking of the Black race. And, just before I even say this, I just want to go a little bit deeper into the numbers. When we talk about that 50 to 60 million, Hispanic people in this country, that's includes everybody. So whether you're Puerto Rican, you're Mexican, you're Salvadorian, you're everything, that's a whole bunch of different Hispanic groups. When we talk about that 40 to 50 million Black people, that is majority direct descendants of slaves, people that have generations after generations in this country, where you can trace your roots back to the slave days. Both of my great grandfathers were 100% Native American, and they married free slaves, and we can trace they were both part of the two largest Native American tribes in this country, and they end up marrying free slaves. And my family was migrated to Monroe, New Jersey, which is actually a part of my district, and that's where my grandfather and grandmother had 15 kids. So when you look at races like the Hispanic race, when you look at people like the Indian race, we already know there's a lot of Hispanic people that are inherently conservative and vote conservative and been voting Republican for a long time. There's a lot of Indians that vote Republican, been voting conservative for a long time. It's not until you get to the Black race and we start doing that, you start getting called all types of coons, Uncle Toms, this and that. I want to break down that narrative. It's not right. It's not true. And in fact, a lot of the coons nowadays, because I hear a lot of Black people on the left nowadays calling Joe Biden Pop Pop. That's indicative of a much deeper problem inside of them. This is the guy that gave the eulogy at the last known KKK member we had in our, in our House of Representatives, Mr. Robert Byrd. This is the same guy that said he didn't want his kids to go to, desegregate our schools because he didn't want his kids going to a racial jungle. So, for them to be doing those things and come out and calling this guy Pop Pop, it's not people like me that are the coons and the Uncle Toms, if that is a real thing. It's more of the people like them. And my job is to start waking people up to that reality and letting the next generation know, especially the babies, because some, and I hate to say this, some in this generation now, and even just a little bit before this, are kind of lost. Their minds have already been propagated. They think a certain way. And some of those people were just not going to be able to change their hearts and minds, or even open them up to even respect something like this. You don't have to like it, but you should respect people like this coming out and, putting their life on the line to, do these type of things. But, my job is to wake these people up and to make them understand that the only way for us to truly garner our power is to truly be free. And voting one side of the aisle for one party, 90% of us every single time an election comes around is not garnering your power. It's being subjected and propagated to keep following your slave masters into the abyss of hell, because that's where a lot of these people are living. And it's not all of them, because people fail to realize that 50% of Black Americans also live in the suburbs. So it's not every single one of us out of that 40 to 50 million. It's actually a small subset of people. But for us to continue to vote for these policies that are destroying our communities, that are breaking down our families, is actually, the coonish behavior that we need to alleviate in order to garner our true power. So I'm just here to represent, for that frame of mind, that type of thing, to let people know it's okay to have a different opinion, because at the end of the day, we still all want the same things: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and for our kids and our grandkids to have better and more opportunities than we did. And we can disagree on how to get there, but as long as we have that mutual understanding, that's where we all want to be, we can support each other, even though we may think differently ideologically, and that we may represent different parties. And it's okay to do that.
Darius, that was phenomenal. All right, so we've got our next guest coming up. And you can, honestly, you guys can both stay. We're going to probably go a little bit over, about 45 minutes left. I do want to say something interesting. You brought up the comment by Biden about don't want my kids growing up in a racial jungle. I brought that up to somebody that was on the liberal side, and their response was, no, look at the quote. He said, if we don't do something. And I'm like, that doesn't change the context. Exactly. I don't know if you don't, if literacy isn't your strong suit. I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to have this conversation.
Walks like a duck, talks like a duck.
Yeah. Like it's the same thing. You just, all right. So anyways, guys, we have another guest. Darius, are you okay sticking around with Jerome for the wrap for the rest of this?
Sure.
Awesome.
Sure.
We'll and both of you guys can weigh in, but I want to introduce our next guest. Very excited to have him as well. This is our final guest. It is a gentleman by the name of Jerome Bell. He is an American First conservative Republican from Virginia Beach. He's dedicated his life to a career in the Navy. He retired as a chief petty officer after 27 years, turned his attention once again to serve this great nation by working to help Donald Trump keep America great in the United States House of Representatives. He's running for Congress to defend our republic against foreign and domestic enemies to our Constitution, to which he swore an oath as a member of our armed forces, and that oath does not expire. It's obvious to him that the Democratic Party put black votes on the back of the proverbial bus a long time ago, left the black population behind. They don't represent us now, and arguably never did. Ladies and gentlemen, in the group, since we have some pictures up, give a round of applause for Mr. Jerome Bell. I have unmuted you, my friend. There you go.
Hey, thank you, Anthony. I appreciate that. Hey to everybody that's saying hi. I appreciate y'all. Hello, and to my brother Darius. I met Darius for the first time at Kim's event, and very impressed with this brother. And hey, he brings the fire, man. He brings the fire, and I appreciate you being in the fight. You know, because it's brothers like you and like me, and sisters like Kim, and all the other ones that was there at Kim's event, Billy, and I mean, that just have to change this narrative. Because I ran for the first time last year in 2020. And our fight is not only, like I say, with the Democrat party, but it's also definitely with the GOP establishment, because they're both the same. So our fight is to combat the narrative on both sides and bring this narrative to the middle where we should be, and where people really, really, truly want to be. And Darius covered a lot of that very, very exceptionally. But thank y'all for having me.
Thank you, man.
Excellent. All right. So I'm also up on our other page because I want to remind people real fast that we are still collecting donations. We so far are at 4, unless Casey has any more. The current total with just under 45 minutes to go is $4,145 that are going to 22 Kill as well as Empower Me Foundation. So we are almost at our $5,000 goal. We've got a little bit of a ways to go, but we've done very well to get to this point. And we still have any questions. I want to go to Darius or Jerome. So if I could have Lauren come off mute and explain how questions work one more time to everybody while I continue to organize this meeting. Have at it.
What's up, you guys? Thank you, Darius, so much, and welcome, Jerome. So for everybody tuning in, to ask a question, you need to raise your hand, please. It'll look a lot of different ways depending on what kind of device you're using. If you're on desktop computer, most likely down at the bottom in the reactions section, or find the 3 dots that are like on your little picture or by your name in the participants section. If you pop out that participants like sidebar, there likely will be a button for raising your hand down at the bottom right corner as well. On mobile, most likely you will have a more button with the 3 dots as well. That'll have like the chat, meeting settings, emoji reactions, and then the raise hand option there. If all of this gets way too confusing, throw it into the chat and we'll jump on the questions that way.
And before we get started, Suni is in the comment box right here on the Zoom chat. I know we're presenting this to everybody also on our social media channels. I'm going to go ahead and put the PayPal link in, but Suni herself, falling asleep at the desk because it's like 2 a.m. in Japan, is going to match the next $100 donation, which would put us at $43.45. So I'm going to put the PayPal on the
It's
social.
not me. It's
me.
Blake.
It's Blake. Well, would you stop? So never mind. Suni is not. Suni's like, not it. Sorry. Blake is going to match the next $100 donation. Maybe Blake, you should not have changed your name on here. But again, we're going to be looking for hands to go up. I will put the PayPal link in there in just a second. Does anybody have any questions for Jerome? If not, I will ask one to start. I'll ask one to start, and then I'll look for the hands to go up. So this is for actually both of you gentlemen. We'll start with Jerome, and it bleeds off of what Darius was talking about earlier about teaching a different version. Like the education that we put out there is negative to the point where it feels as though their progress isn't happening, when in reality, so much progress has happened in this country to overcome racism. Is it perfect? No, because good and evil are always going to exist in a world of human beings. Why is it that that a lot of like the critical race theories are being pushed in education, and things like the movie Uncle Tom are not being shown? As a motivational speaker, when you tell somebody they are a victim, they're going to remain a victim. How these policies in education aren't so blatantly obvious, I don't know what else to do or what to say. Why aren't they teaching more of the positives of what can be possible, whether you're black, white, it doesn't matter, to overcome? I'll start with Jerome if you can answer that question, if that made sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I mean, because here it is, we don't know the true ideology of our opponents, to be honest. We assume that, and when I mean our opponents, I'm speaking of the Democratic Party and those that will call us coons and Uncle Toms and all this nonsense. We assume that there's too much good and will on the part of our opponents, and that has to stop. So let me just break it down a little bit. They lie, all the time. Okay. And if they happen to land on something truthful once in a while, we must assume that these violent, I call them communists, okay, because that's what they are. We're in the middle of a Marxist communist coup in the United States, And so I believe that they're using that one truth in the pursuit of another lie. So let me explain what I mean with that. Democrats, they use lies and their advantage on the playing field to keep Republicans and most Americans confused. Okay, and they do that because it works. So very often, many in the Republican, in the media space, they fall right into the hands of the Democrats. Let's take the issue for race, since that's basically, what the coon and Uncle Tom and and all of this, the CRT and stuff is. Okay, and so if you're white, let's say if you're white and you're sin, and that's an unforgivable sin, right? But if a communist Democrat would tell you you're racist and you're condemned, and if I'm black, and if people, let's say they just hear my voice, right? And if they guessed I'm a black man, then that's racist. But these communist Democrats, the same Democrats pushing for mass abortion in our cities, okay, and all kinds of other evil, so they go out in public every day and they try to use morality as if they have any, let's just say that, to keep conservatives, whites, Christians, conservative blacks, conservative Latinos, conservative Asians, all Americans who really built this country, cowered into their place. They want you to just shut up, sit back, and just sit in your corner. Literally, Democrats, they don't think about race, and it's like this. They think about it as a tool, and only as a tool. To Democrats, let's say Clarence Thomas literally is not black, but Bill Clinton is black. Okay, so race to the Democrats is a function of ideology. And for these Democrats, race is not a function of biology or socioeconomic background. And people don't really know that they're not even talking about race. They're talking about politics. And when they're talking about politics, they're talking about power. And they're not using the term race anywhere close to being objectively, let's just say that. And here's an example. Let's look at Nicole Hannah-Jones. She did at the 1619 New York Times de facto, and she's an editor-in-chief there, right? She slipped up a bit and she showed her true self. she's a bully, she's a liar. But last summer she deleted her tweets, right? And you've heard some people coming out saying it now too. But she said there's a difference between being racially Black and politically Black. When they say Black, like I said, they're talking about having Black politics. They don't care about Black people. And you can see they don't care about Black people. We got the abortions, Joe Biden's crime bill, what he said on the Senate about being in the racial jungle, okay? They care about exploiting the status politics to control Black people, okay? I mean, look at it. They canceled Clarence Thomas's documentary during Black History Month. Because why? Because he's a conservative and they don't think he's Black enough, okay? Kanye West, he puts on a MAGA hat and they say he's crazy, right? So all of a sudden, they care about Conte's mental health or whatever you want to call it. But this is a pure power play on the part of Marxists and these communist Democrats. And people have to understand that these so-called Black allies, they keep trying to claim that they're the ones who really care about Black experiences when they're really doing what they're really doing is using race to keep power, okay? And they basically say to Blacks, what do I need to tell you or say to you to get you to do what I want and to get your votes and to keep you here on this, proverbial plantation? And the funny thing is they don't really care about hypocrisy. I mean, look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a big example of being the most hypocritical and the most racist person that we can have in the White House. And the very fact that they're putting Blacks into such a pigeonhole is a feature of their approach. It isn't a bug. In other words, they don't see their hypocrisy as a problem with their approach. So many Republicans, what we do, we sit around, and we pretend like, we call them out but they don't care if we call them out on being hypocrites. They actually get off on being hypocrites, and they're using our morals of showing people that they're hypocrites to basically rough us over. They create these contradictions, on people. And so these Democrats and these communists, especially during this last year, have been creating a new reality where no one knows what's real anymore. Okay. And when no one knows what's real, that's when they strike and advance the ball. And that's what they've been doing this entire year with the BLM, with the Antifa. Oh, these are mostly peaceful protests when January 6th was an insurrection. So they do that. And so calling out this leftist hypocrisy is not what we really need to be doing. And people, really have to trust me on this one. Okay. I've been studying this for a while and I went through my election last year and I learned a lot through that, but I'm going to tell you what we need to do. We not only need to call out the hypocrisy, but we need to flat out reject it. We need to reject that paradigm. Okay, we need to reject the woke commies in Hollywood. We need to stop focusing on race. And we need to get back to character. Darius mentioned that, and he said it so eloquently. We need to get back to character, conservative character, Christian character, and we need to come out and speak it out and stipulate it out loudly and proudly to the truth of that. Okay, so it's just not enough to say, imagine if a Republican said, you ain't Black, don't vote for me. Okay, and that's really a lame way of thinking. We need to go a few steps further and call Joe Biden saying that for what it is. He's using race to put Blacks and whites onto that Democratic chain gang. And well, it's time for Blacks and whites to free ourselves of those chains. These communist Dems and the critical theory practitioners don't care about character. They want to destroy character because that's how they destroy the nuclear family. That's how they obtain ultimate power. And really right now, it all comes down to fighting for family and what we believe in. And that's my answer to that.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely hilarious that we've gone from dog whistles. Like, Trump said things like, he said slogans about America, bringing America back. And they find an obscure passage from a old KKK dossier from 1945 or a billboard. And they're calling that a dog whistle when we actually have blatant racism out of the White House. And it's like, it's mind boggling. Darius, do you have anything to add to that?
Not much, because I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, he hit all the points on the head, and you said I said things eloquently. That was even more eloquently than I speak. So I appreciate you, brother. Like that was right on the head. And you know, he said so many things that are true. It's just one of the most powerful things I think he said, which is so true, is it's politics, and they're basically showing you how dumb they think you are. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. They're telling you how dumb they think you are without actually telling to your face how dumb they think you are. And, you know, it's been a game that's been played for a long time. They're playing games that are above all of our pay grades. You know, they live and breathe and work politics. So when they speak, they're speaking from a political angle. They're not speaking as a regular person, you know, to try to do well for you and try to actually break something down for you. They're speaking to you as a politician. And he said it so well. They're just manipulating the minds of these people as to where right now, you know, they're telling us how racist the people at the insurrection were, who had no weapons, no guns, no nothing like that. But yet right now, there are people in this group called Antifa that are literally going into black and brown neighborhoods and burning them down. Antifa is not in the suburbs burning city downs. They're fighting under the guise of racial justice, burning down black and brown neighborhoods. If these people don't wake up, this is going to be beyond their control before they understand it, if it's not already, to be honest with you. And that's why, you know, the gentleman asked me before how I'm going to reach out to both sides of the aisle and things of that sort. That's why I always make it a point to say, when it comes to groups like Black Lives Matter, when it comes to some of the, you know, more staunch conservative groups, I support the people of those movements, not the people at the top pulling the strings, not the multimillionaires and billionaires financing these programs, you know, that have an agenda of breaking down the nuclear family. And, you know, even though they won't admit that now, all of a sudden, because they took it out of their website, they're not here to break down a nuclear family. So they're really just playing games with people's minds. But I know the people of these groups, whether it's staunch conservative groups, whether it's BLM, again, want a lot of the same things. And we need to make sure we don't lose sight of that and make sure we don't let them go too far off the reservation, because these are the people that make up the country, not the politicians that are playing politics with their brains, not the millionaires and billionaires that are pulling the strings at the top and financing celebrities to just put their message out there at the end of the day. And this whole thing with critical race theory, you know, listen, I'm not ever going to claim to be any expert on critical race theory. From my understanding, basically what it is the examination of our laws and how they relate to the Black community, especially, you know, throughout history and things of that sort. The problem is that in doing so, as we've learned so much now, like we've learned this just in New Jersey, where the citizens of New Jersey basically voted for weed to be legal out here last year. So what does our Democratic governor do? Instead of just taking the word of the people and making it legal like they voted for it to be, it is what it is, that's what they voted for, that's what they get. They went a step further, and the final legislation basically mandated that if cops see minors smoking weed or drinking, they will now be charged with a third-degree felony if they report that to their parents. So what we know is Democrats, as wholesome and holy as they might try to come off, always have some type of nefarious motive underneath what they're doing. They always take things to the next level. And it's the same thing with this critical race theory, where you hear so many examples of them basically, as he was just explaining, making white people the bad guy, making white people the bad person. I know no white person on this panel or no white person listening right now had anything to do with slavery. Why would we make you guys the bad guys and make you guys, you know, subject to, you know, take the fall for, or, you know, have to make amends for something you had nothing to do with at the end of the day? And I think that's what people are really worried about, and rightfully so, where they're taking these things and just pushing things to the next level. You know, it started off, I seen a gentleman say the other day, well, they only teach this in college classes, it's not coming to school. Well, I just heard a speech. I was at Alan West's speech last night, and he alerted us that this is now coming to the U.S. Army, critical race theory. This is now about to become curriculum in the United States Army. They're trying to put it in elementary schools and middle schools. So not only do they push the envelope, but they then like to go and keep downplaying, and they use their stooges within the Black community to keep, you know, perpetuating this stuff and downplaying things, because literally this is how stupid they think their constituents are. So I just challenge, you know, those people in the Black community, listen, white people aren't your enemies, man. Again, as I mentioned before, is there racism? Does it still exist? Yes. I'm never going to downplay that. But the overwhelming majority of people in this country are not racist. If that was the case, and I don't like to call him the first Black president, I'll call him the first president of color. We wouldn't have had the first president of color, right? We wouldn't have had the first vice president of color. And one thing I like to relate this to, actually talking about the president, and I guess this has a little bit to do with the situation. The reason I don't call people like Barack Obama and Kamala Harris the first Black and first Black president and the first Black VP is because, again, they are not, neither one of them are direct descendants of slaves. And, you know, this is intentionally done within the Democratic Party, right? They won't let certain Black people. I would have actually had more respect for Joe Biden, even though I don't agree with anything she says, if he would have put Stacey Abrams as his VP. It lets us, you know that he's moved above that old guard mind frame where, you know, people that are directly connected to slavery can ascend to certain heights within their party. But yet on the other side, you have people like the Allen West. You have people like the Ben Carson, who is now within the actual Trump administration. You have people like myself, the Jerome Bales, the Kim Klasiks, that are ascending within this so-called racist party that are literally direct descendants of slaves in this country. And for those that don't think that means something, it does at the end of the day, because it is a different experience. When you think about people like Barack Obama, yes, he grew up with his white parents and grandparents in Hawaii. His dad was from Africa. He did not go through the same struggles and, you know, things that we went through as direct descendants of slaves. When you talk about Kamala Harris, you know, she was and this is mind blowing. She had the most arrest of Black men of any prosecutor in her district in the history of that district. Like, these things are not by accident. People have to start realizing that and waking up. So when you sit there and call people like us coons, but we know this stuff and we're not afraid to call it out, it really makes us look at you like, what planet are you living on? What planet are you living on when you are so happy to get behind a guy and call him Pop Pop that literally is giving a eulogy at a KKK member's, KKK member's funeral? Bill Clinton, where we know one of his mentors growing up was a Grand Cyclops in the KKK. Hillary Clinton, where she's on record and publicly saying how Margaret Sanger was inspiration to her, the woman that created Planned Parenthood, that came out and said she created it to get rid of the undesirables, which was Black people, those with disabilities, and Jews. So, you know, they play all these mind games and put these things out there, and people really just need to kind of wake up to it. And I think, you know, that's something you'll definitely hear me start speaking about more, where we look at people like Kamala Harris, who really decided that she was Black when it became convenient. I know she went to a Black college or wherever the case is, and I'm sure that was for optics at the end of the day, but she didn't become, you know, really Black until, you know, it was really important for her to do so, which is obviously running for office. This is a woman that ran for president and lost in her own state in the primaries. I mean, come on, her own state tried to tell you this is not the one, but yet we're sitting here praising Pop Pop, the guy that gave the eulogy at the KKK members, thing, and Miss Kamala Harris, that, you know, has no connection to the real roots of Black America in this country, that locked up people that look just like me and Jerome at a higher rate than anybody ever did in the district that she comes from. And it's just asinine. It's really just a slap in the face. And that's why people like us are here to start waking people up and keep speaking truth to power, so people can really realize that they have the power, and you need to think a certain way. You need to start doing certain things to actually garner that power. And we will. And we're going to take back the House in 2022, I assure you.
Thank you, Darius. That is awesome. All right, so we've got 2 questions coming up, and I should take this time that if Joe Biden were with us today, he would just say to you, Darius and Jerome,
I ain't Black.
Well, no, he was going to say that he's very impressed that you figured out how to use Zoom and use your computer to make it online. So I'm sure he'd be very complimentary that you guys figured it out. So we're going to go Casey and then Eric. Casey, go ahead and ask a question. We'll have Jerome probably answer it first. Go ahead, Casey.
My question is, when you guys get elected, because I'm all on board with both of you, I appreciate your guys' message. Like, Darius, this is the first time us meeting, but Jerome and I have had numerous conversations in the past. Like, what is your guys' first objective when you guys get elected?
Jerome. Oh, I got on mute, Jerome. Go ahead, Jerome. You're up, buddy.
All right, thanks. Well, actually, my first objective is, for my district, is really going to be tackling this education problem. We have a major education problem in the district going on right now, especially with the CRT trying to come to the schools. That's what we're fighting now. We're fighting this curriculum, to keep it, because CRT is really just a race bait hate, type of curriculum that they're bringing in, and I like to use my sons as an example for that, because my 3 sons, I had 3 Black boys, that graduated out of the Virginia Beach school system, which they're saying now is racist. Well, my oldest son was valedictorian. He was the first Black valedictorian in the history of Virginia Beach since Reconstruction. So it must not have been that racist if he was valedictorian. My oldest son, my next son and my third son, both also graduated. My oldest son went on to be a doctor. My second son is an HVAC tech. My third son is a musical theater performer. So what we have to do is stop being victims. Okay, I never let my sons use the word can't. I never let them, make excuses. And what this CRT does, it cripples our children. Whether they're, Black, Latino, whatever, they cripple our children into believing that they're victims and that they're less than. Okay. So, we need to start with the education system. And we also need to bring back trade schools. And everybody's not made for college. My second son is a typical example. He went to college, played football. He didn't think it was for him after 2 years. Came out, has a trade. He can take care of himself. So we need to really go back and focus on these trade schools, and really need to focus on these kids and the minds of these kids, because there's a war for their minds right now. And they're bringing in all this garbage into the schools. They're bringing this Marxism. They started with the colleges 10 years ago. So they sort of have that generation, and you can see it now, how the liberal generation, of these college kids now, but now they're going, starting to get younger. They're going into kindergarten now, going after these kids' minds. And so we really need to prevent that. And that's going to be one of my main objectives, other than reopening Virginia, getting these people back to work, getting Americans back to work, getting my veterans off the streets and have jobs, and focusing on these kids, man. So that's going to be one of my main focuses when I'm elected in 2022.
Excellent. Thank you, Jerome. Darius, go ahead. What's your first?
I think I'm right on the same page with Jerome. One of my first objectives would either be writing or sponsoring a bill for school choice. And it's so important, because education is the root of everything, especially when it comes to these situations we're talking about within the inner cities with brown and Black children. They're so easily manipulated now, is because they're not educated. They're taught now to praise the rappers, the drug dealers. Everything is cool. It's about being cool. It's about having the freshest kicks, or wearing the coolest clothes, or speaking the coolest new lingo, right? And these lingos aren't even English at the end of the day. Yeah, it's okay to do that. All right. Yeah, we got our own language and stuff, but you might want to learn how to speak the English language first, so you can make sure you can be successful in the society that you live in. Just like when it comes to immigrants coming here, we want them to assimilate, right? Because we want them to learn, our cultures. We want them to be able to integrate within society and become a productive citizen of society. But within these inner city communities, it's all about coolness right now. And, one of the stunning things is I found out one of the towns that's in my district, Trenton, New Jersey, is in their schools in Trenton, New Jersey, which is mostly Black people in Trenton, New Jersey, they have a 3% proficiency rate in math. 3%. Not 30%, not 13%, not 35%, 3%. So for every 100 kids coming through that school, only 3 of them can do math at their grade level. That is enough for any school superintendent, any principal, any teacher that has anything to do with that school district to be immediately fired and replaced within that. And I've seen Black parents, especially in the city of Newark, try to go to their school board meetings and get that done. And, you have these Democrats sitting on the board that basically just scoff at them and look down their noses at them. These are Democrats doing these things and not taking these things seriously. And that's what I mean when I say people like Bonnie Watson Coleman, all blessings to her for becoming the first Black, Congresswoman in New Jersey. Great. But you're presiding over a district that has 3% proficiency rates in math amongst your own people. This stuff should not and will not be tolerated anymore. So what we need to do is institute a national school choice policy. And it's funny because somebody asked me this other day, and they asked me, would I try to do something statewide first or federally first? And my answer was, I might try to do it statewide first, because I know it's going to be a task, depending on, listen, if we take back the House and we're just overrun with patriots, maybe we can just go ahead and, push this through, because I know all patriots will be on board to get this done. But what this is going to force them to do is, in these public schools in these inner cities, you got 2 choices. You either shut down or you get your act right. We're not going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more generations of our kids being lost forever from the school to prison pipeline, because that's all that is happening right now. These kids are lost in the streets, selling drugs, hooked on drugs, and they're propagated to the point where you could sit up there and call somebody like Joe Biden Pop, And really, because the media told you to think Trump does racist, not even acknowledge all the good that he's done for our people. You know, I challenge anybody to sit here and tell me Barack Obama compared to Donald Trump. What did he do for black people in this country? Who did more for black people in this country? I dare anybody to look me straight in the face and tell me Barack Obama did more. He absolutely did not at all. And it's very easy to see what President Trump did and what he wanted to do. You know, remember they started scolding Ice Cube for talking to President Trump and his team. Well, what did President Trump do? He said, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I will give this community $500 billion. I'll make lynching a federal crime. I'll open up access to capital for the black communities. And Joe Biden, what they say? We'll talk to you after the election. Well, guess what? They still haven't talked to Ice Cube. But this is just more of the same cycle. And these people just keep getting caught in the cycle round and round and round. And at a certain point, it's like, guys, wake up. They are telling you they know, and they think you're as stupid as they think you are. And part of the reason why they think you're that way is because they've already trashed your public education system to such a point that they know you're not even able to critically think anymore. And I think it's important to note that the public school system in this country, they always want to talk about systematic racism. The public school system in this country is one of the most systematically racist organizations left in this country as a whole, because it's literally just ushering our kids from the school to prison pipeline. So we need school choice. A parent needs to let that money follow their kid. I just want to tell you guys a quick story. One of the reasons why I'm such an advocate about this is because when I was born in the hood, as I told you, to a single mother and a little sister. And I went to a school called Lord Sterling in New Brunswick, New Jersey. I was in the 3rd grade, and I'll never forget, I was going to breakfast in the morning. Me and my friend Jaja were walking, and some kid in between 2 garbage cans, there's a knife about this big. He picked up that knife and started chasing me and my friend in the 3rd grade. Luckily, my house was only a couple blocks away from the school, so I ran all the way home. When I got home, my mother said, I'm never going to send you back to that school. So what she did was she used my aunt's address in a suburban town called South Brunswick to start sending me to school there, where she would drive me to South Brunswick every day, even though I wasn't living with her. About a year and a half into that, the school board came to her and they said, Mrs. Mayfield, we understand that your son does not physically live at this address. So you have 2 choices. Either we're going to fine you all the money that is associated with you legally sending him to our school, or you can send him back to any school you want in New Brunswick. We understand that you don't want to go back to Lord Sterling because of the experience that we have. So we'll let you send him to any school, because at that time, it depended on where you lived in that town, depended on what school you could actually go to. So we'll let him go to any school. So my mom went off on him, threw a fit, and she said, for now you have to go out of here. So we ended up going to Woodrow Wilson school when I went back to New Brunswick. It was still more of the same. Kids weren't learning. It was just out of control. So what my mom did, she sacrificed everything and picked us up and moved to the poorest part of that same suburban neighborhood right next to the trailer park. So me and my sister could continue to go to school in South Brunswick and get the education we deserve. To this day, I would not be here in front of you guys. I would not be as articulate as some like to tell me that I am if I did not have that opportunity to go to those schools. So I am a product of school choice. I understand how valuable it is, and I understand how important it is for us to educate these next generations coming up, or we are going to be lost forever. And this is just going to be a sad, sad time, especially for people that look like me and people like Jerome.
Darius, that was impressive. You managed to give yourself a microaggression. But we've got 2 more questions left. But before that, Suni, I know it's like 4 a.m. and she just went off camera. If you want to sign off, I would love for you to do your sign off, because I know it's getting ridiculously late. You just went off camera. So if you want to pop back up, or if you just want to exit, that is fine as well. We've had a great event to this point. Eric, you've got the next question. And then Katie had a question. How can we have faith in the electoral process? We'll get to that in a split second. Eric, you are next. Suni, if you want, go ahead and just sign off. We'll let her go. All right. Reminder to everybody where we are right now on the donations. We are at $4,370. We've gotten very, very close. Again, for those of you still watching, we have over 100 people on social media, as well as the people in here. Suni, do you want to say goodbye to everybody real quick?
Suni. What do you mean?
I didn't know because you were saying you're getting tired. I was going to say, well, we have 2 more questions. Before we do that, if you would like to sign off, this could be your final message to everybody, and you could go get some sleep.
Oh, I'm good. My kids are up, so I'm going to have to be up anyway. I'm good.
Oh, we did not let her sleep last night. I'm sorry, Suni. All right. So the amount we are at is $4,370. These the foundations that this is for is Empower Me Foundation, which is for ending human trafficking, as well as teaching soft skills to those entering the workforce. And of course, 22 Kill, supporting our veterans. 22 Kill is an organization Texas-based that was started about the 22 suicides committed per day in the military community. And of course, now as they've grown, which is fantastic, they have started working with first responders as well as medical professionals during COVID. So thank you to those charities. Please, our goal, we randomly set 5,000 yesterday and we're very close. We're at 4,370. So please keep bringing those in. Eric, you have the floor.
Thanks, guys. So I just want to touch base on a couple of things. We've got some questions kind of through the comment section that I've just kind of been reading through. Want to touch on them a little bit. Somebody's asked a little bit about, what's a good way for us to streamline the process to determine the stance on like some specifically important issues. And I'll just add to that. My question specifically is, in a time when we kind of, particularly our educational system, I'd say is one institution that I think we can all agree we've lost a lot of faith in. They do seem to be splitting the family, trying to raise your children for you, make sorts of opportunities for themselves versus letting parents, drive the moral compass of their children. And so to that end, I'll just ask is, right now in a time where we have little faith in our institutions, although I think we can all agree they can be great, what are some things that we can ask, you're both candidates, that really streamline the process for us voters that are looking to get to the heart of the issue, instead of dancing around it? What are some things that you guys get that are good determining questions with direct answers?
Jerome or Darius, who wants? Jerome, go ahead and go.
Okay, well, I'll go first. Well, ultimately, people have to get involved. That's a big thing. Get involved in these school boards. These parents, the parents of these kids. I don't have any kids in school left. I can fight for you. I can go out and say, do these speeches that I do, and I can go and pass all the legislation I want, or enact or submit all the legislation I want when I'm elected. But locally, you have to get involved in these school board meetings. And what's sad to me is that not even, I would say even 50% of the people in these cities they don't even know who's on their school board. They don't even know the names of these people and what they represent. Okay. But they'll go to the voting, booth, and then they'll select them, but they know nothing about them. And elections have consequences, and so now, we have people complaining, like, okay, well, where were you? Did you do your education on these people? Do you know what they're about? And so these parents have to get involved in these school board meetings. You have to run for school board. More Americans need to get involved in politics. They need to run for these local offices. They need to run for city council. They need to run for school board. They need to run for state delegate. They need to, get out of their comfort zone and stop waiting for people to lead them and be leaders. My dad always told me, and this is one reason why I'm running, you have to be the change you want. You can't sit back and just let someone go and represent you all the time. If you want change, you have to be the change you want, and you have to go out there and get involved. And that's really the streamlined process that you call it. It's not really easy, it's not streamlined, but that's the most streamlined that I could say that we could get, is getting citizens involved in these local politics and making change at the local level, because it truly all starts at the local level.
Thank you.
Excellent. Darius, you want to take that one also?
Yeah, I'll just preface this with saying this probably has to be my last question. I got an interview coming up at the border in about 20 minutes, and looks like my computer is about to go out as well, and I don't have a cord close enough to plug this thing up. But I will keep this short. And Jerome hit it on the head. Again, man, it's exactly what he said. It starts local, and there's an example out here, and I won't talk about the actual town and district, but there's one town out here in my district where there's 60 available county committee seats in that district. Only 4 of them are filled. So people are calling me. They're like, listen, it's time to go to work. You can put regular people on these boards and you can start filling these things up. These are the people that determine who gets the line, in a lot of these places. These are the people that are voting on budgets, passing budgets and different things like that, because it seems like there's been a little bit of a disconnect between who's actually sitting on these seats and people actually running for them, and people even understanding what the significance of these different positions are, whether it's the school board, whether it's the county committee seats. So again, he hit it right on the head where we need to start doing more things locally, because on the federal level, you have people like myself, Jerome, the Billy Prempers, a lot of people that are stepping up that are regular everyday people that are like, all right, we're going to throw our hats in the ring and really try to get this done. Now we need those people at that local level, at the state level, at the county level, at the city level to really start filling these positions, because they're I forget what it was. They said here in New Jersey, when they're voting on school boards, a lot of times there's only like 6 to 7 votes that are being cast. So if you bring a band of 100 people together and you put somebody up for a vote, we'll literally win them every time based on, what's been happening over the last few years. A lot of people don't know that, nor do they understand that right now. So, we're doing things to get the word out. I know different Republican counties and different grassroots, because that's where it really comes through. These grassroots organizations are starting to put the word out, starting to educate people on those things. I'm doing an event here in New Jersey on June 19th with Scott Pressler about election integrity and election voter registration here, where we are going to educate people on the new laws in this state, on the process of how to not only register to vote, but how to put people up in your county seats and your committee seats, how to get candidates, how to be a candidate and run for these different local offices. And the point of that is not only to just educate the people that come to this specific event, but to give them the knowledge so then they can go out to their family, their friends, their neighborhoods, and precipitate that information. So we just cause a chain reaction where people get involved. It's not going to take a lot of people. We can literally right now take 50 or 60 people in one town, conservative America First people that believe everything that we're all sitting here talking about, and have them on a county committee seat tomorrow. Literally, that's how easy it is right now. So we need to start drilling down, making people aware of these things and start taking these things over. And once we start taking those over, it doesn't matter who, in a state like New Jersey, it doesn't matter that our assembly is made up of the majority of Democrats, because everybody sitting on that school board, everybody sitting on that county committee are America First Republicans that will vote up and down on different budgets and different ordinances that we put in to make sure we're following an America First agenda and make sure we're getting people the resources and the help that they need, and building upon this great energy that I said before President Trump and this America First movement started, to give people the power to speak up about these things and really start being the change they want to see. So I think that's the best thing we can do, and everybody here, everybody running needs to just start educating their constituencies and making sure they have this information, they understand these things, so we can get it done and get it done fast.
Darius, let me let Darius go. Darius, thank you so much. We're gonna have Jerome answer the rest of the questions. Darius, phenomenal. You were a plethora of information over the last hour and a half and more, and you killed it. Thank you so much. Good luck at the border today. Stay safe and kill your interviews. Thank you, everybody. Round of applause for Darius, so people can see us
guys,
on
man.
The live stream.
And Jerome, you kill it, bro. It's nice to meet you guys all. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to joining you all again soon.
Sounds great. Thank you,
Darius. Let's do a MAGA primetime Patriots rally soon. Let's make it happen. Come on, man. That's the type of stuff we need to be doing.
Done and done. This was a starter version of that. So thank you, Darius. Take it easy,
Sounds
brother.
good. Take care, guys.
All right, Darius.
All right, we're gonna have Jerome answer. So here's Eric. You're gonna ask 1 or 2 more questions, whatever you have, and then we've got the final question. We'll do a final trivia, and then we'll go. We're a little bit behind on the day, so hopefully we'll be wrapped in the next 10, 15 minutes or so. Eric, go ahead, my friend.
So I just wanted to add to that. I think this is the third person we've heard from in the last 2 days that is running for office that has said specifically, it is our job to restore the faith to our institutions. And I just want to make that point to everyone listening right now, is we can look for good candidates. We can vet candidates. We can do all of those things. You may be looking in the mirror and seeing yourself as the potential candidate. And I want to make that point known to everybody. If it's your local election, whether that be a county board, a city board, a state election, a local school election, there is some way for each of us to get involved. And one of the things that I'm certainly taking away from this entire weekend is that we as individuals can make that choice to restore the faith to our institutions by becoming the involved parties. We don't have to wait for the next group of good people to come in to do something for us. We can be that change. And I just wanted to add to what Darius and to what Jerome had said. We don't have to wait for somebody to come do this for us. It is our job to step in and make those changes for ourselves. And so I just wanted to add to those comments.
Thank you very much, Eric. So one more question that we had from Katie, and we have to be delicate about this because we are live, Jerome, and we're on the major social media channels. How can we have faith in the electoral process, knowing what we believe was an issue? Granted, I have to state this 100%, Joe Biden won the election. He is our current president. With that said, on all the social media channels, what is your way of restoring that faith?
Well, and really have to look at what's going on in Maricopa County. And actually, let me back up. I back up and say this. People know what people saw with their own eyes and believe what they saw with their own eyes. So, I would just say, believe what you saw with your eyes. What's going on in Maricopa County, what's going on now, what's going to happen in Fulton County, what's going on in Wisconsin, what's going to happen in Pennsylvania, all these states, right? These states are going to enact laws to protect voter integrity. You see what they did down in Georgia already. That's going to resonate, and that's going to happen throughout the nation. I'm part of the Hold the Line Pack down in Georgia, and things like that. So, it's going to happen. Maricopa County is going to fall. Fulton County is going to fall. Wisconsin. So when it comes up around 2022, I believe these states are going to solidify their legislatures and solidify their, and I noticed I didn't mention Virginia because Virginia is still democratically controlled. Those states that are still democratically controlled are going to have issues. But for the most part, I think these states that you see had the major issues are going to write and pass legislation to bolster up their voting laws. Also, I think with this real ID thing, the real ID thing, I think is going to transpose and go into like a voter ID, because the real ID, with the star, you got to have that to, get on the plane and just all this stuff that, that was supposed to be enacted in last year in October, but they extended it because of COVID. I think that's going to be a big step. But ultimately, the people are going to have to trust the system, have faith in the system, and still get out and vote. Okay, and you have to, like I said, get involved with your legislatures. And these people, these legislators, the people that you elect, you need to find out where they stand, on election integrity, where they stand on voter ID. If someone says that they don't believe in voter ID, then don't vote for them. Those are the people that you don't want to vote for. If people don't believe in your ideology as far as one person, one vote, and maintaining the integrity of our system, because our country was built on the integrity of our voting system and our voting rights. So you need to make sure that the people that you are voting for, the people that's running for these offices, are standing up for your values and believe in those values, and that's gonna I think project us into 2022 into election integrity. And I think also with what happened in 2020, I think more eyes are watching in 2022. So I think that's going to be a big factor as well, because what people saw in 2020, they're going to be paying more attention. There's going to be, laser focus on the election in 2022. So I think that's going to be a big factor. Just get out and vote, and hold your officials accountable.
Yeah, that's perfect. To that point, I think you said something important, which is when it comes to voting, ultimately, because of the issues of this last year, you answered two questions at once, actually. Because of the issues of this last year, there's going to be a lot of eyes. So have faith in the voting system as much as humanly possible coming up. There's going to be too many eyes on it. And it shows you the importance of, I don't know how to carefully say this for social media, the manipulation that could be found because of the way that they are painting voter ID and the new voter laws as such a racist institution and all these different things. It is very important for the other side to make sure that they deem this as something that can't pass. So we have to make sure in terms of the most important questions you can ask your elected official, whether they are a Democrat or Republican, and there is a lot of Democrats that do believe in voter ID laws. So if you are leaning left in certain ways, the biggest thing to control the sanctity of our elections is to ask about voter ID law belief system and voter systems. So you've spent a ton of time with us. I want to thank you. This is the way we're going to wrap this up. Jerome, you're going to have the floor. Please give your final message on whatever you would like to tell everybody leaving. We are then going to do one more trivia question, and then we are going to sign off from Lauren, Casey, Suni, Blake, and I, and then wrap up the day. And I'll tell you right now, we're at $4,435. It continues to grow. So keep donating for those of you watching on social media. We are getting so incredibly close. So Jerome, the floor is yours to go ahead and wrap up. And again, thank you for your time here.
Okay. The last thing I would like to say is that, first of all, thank y'all again for having me. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for everybody that watched this and donated. But we are in a cultural war, and we've been getting our butts kicked, sitting in a corner, staying on defense. So it's time for us to go on offense and to fight for families, Black families, white families, Asian families, Latino families. There's this controversial quote that Thomas Sowell wrote, where he says something along the lines of, at least after slavery, Blacks look to reunite their families. After 50 years of Democrat rule in our cities, Blacks don't do that anymore. And I'm sure that resonates really, really strong with me. So the point of that being that Democrat rule is more harmful than even slavery. Whites are following the communist Democrat trend too. Fatherless homes, broken families, children growing up without proper rearing, and the communists, they won't even allow us to discuss it anymore in these topics. They're shutting down our First Amendment rights. We have to fight for our First Amendment rights because we're losing that. We have to make sure we continue to have our Second Amendment right to protect that First Amendment right. And we all have to be, I'm here to destroy this communist paradigm, that they've foisted into our country. And I'm going straight to the top to wage the battle, and I just hope that, people like you and, people that's watching the show will help people like myself and people like Darius and people like, Billy and Kim and, all these other great people that's stepping up, these America First people that's stepping up to retake over this country. We really need to take this country back. And if you want to help my campaign, it's Jerome Bell for Congress.com. You spell it JAROMEBELLFOR Congress.com. You can go there and help. You can donate, whatever you need to do. Or if you live in the 2nd District or close to, you can volunteer. But it's time we, as America First people, as patriots, it's time to fight. It's time to take this country back. It's not going to be easy. They're not going to give it up without a fight at all, but we have to do what we can to fight and take it back. And I think it's more of us than them, and we'll do our part to bring other people over as well. And then I'll end with that. And thank y'all very much, but we have to take it back.
Jerome, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your time. This was fantastic. The guests we had on here that went on, I can't thank you enough. And I look forward to staying in touch, staying in contact, etc. Jerome, thank you. Everybody that's up on pit camera, give them a round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Take it easy, Jerome.
All right, take care.
Whew, all right, we are almost wrapped. I fortunately went to the StreamYard to check to see what was going on when the first comment. So this is a sign. When the first comment came up, I don't know if Stevie or Jack, as we know him, came into a bunch of money this week, but he wants to match a donation, which would put us at $5,000. He will match the next $250 donation. We're at $44.35. I will fill the 65. I will fill that 65. So if there is any more $250 donations, I will be on the look for it. We are on our last couple minutes of this. That would be tremendous if we got this. You guys have done phenomenal. I think the way we are going to wrap, we're going to do a trivia question for our Zoom people. And then if I could have it might be asking too much, but if I don't know where Blake's at, but if I could have Lauren, Suni, and Blake pop into the StreamYard and we'll wrap it up, all four of us on the screen. Or do you have to, well, just we're doing the trivia in here right now. But we could just pop really quick into that StreamYard and say goodbye to everybody at the same time. So it's a little bit less discombobulated. So, all right, guys, match. Rebecca said she'll match 50. So I'm going to do 50 myself. So that 50, Rebecca, that puts us at, so that'll be the 50 to Phil. I'm going to do 65. So 65 and 50, that puts us 115 more.
And
Let's
Canadian
see.
Eric's doing 100. He just said it.
All right, hold on. 100. We've got 50. We've got 65. All right. So that puts us at 150, 65, 215. And again, Stevie Marley will match a 250. So Canadian Eric's got that. Excellent. So we are damn close right now.
Dawn just said, I got whatever is left. And that was a direct comment. Oh, she just now put it to everyone.
No. All right, Dawn. Dawn always comes in clutch. She also raised a bunch of money for Cash as well in his legal defense. So,
and Katie Vigil just donated 25. We just got the notification.
All right, so we are going to reach 5,000, which means when we wrap the show, Lauren, get your little hands and mic ready because it sounds like we've got enough to hit that $5,000 number. She's putting the jacket on for the little hands. That's awesome. I did not expect the late rush like that. Thank you guys so much. So here's the deal. Final trivia question for those of you in the Zoom. Everybody can play along, but you're like 30 seconds behind, so it's going to be a severe disadvantage. Lauren, I'm going to unmute you. We're going to do our final question. Question number 14. Nikki, if you're still in here, which I believe you are, make sure you're keeping track of who is the winner of this. Rebecca just donated 50.
Guys, making it rain. Fuck yeah. This is so cool. Okay. Question number 14. Y'all know how it goes. Get ready to throw it into the chat. Do not get yourself on everyone, not a individual. So don't send it to somebody privately, please. We ready to go? Question number 14, final trivia question. Who is on Mount Rushmore?
We need all four. Who is on Mount Rushmore? Do 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 do. Da na 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 na. Da da na da na da da.
Wait, oh, let's see. Whoa. Okay, Canada Eric. Let's see. Moving fast.
Oh, wait, it's moving.
Yes, I think Canada Eric.
No, wait, he's missing one. Oh, no, he didn't do the comment. I'll count it. I thought Lincoln Roosevelt was a man's name.
Roosevelt.
It counts. Don't worry about it, Nacho Libre. Lincoln
He's
Roosevelt,
from Canada.
Washington.
Give him a break.
He's from Canada. What's that all about? I love it. I love that he wears that in Canada. They're probably like, I hate you, bro.
Right?
All right. So it looks like, Nikki, are you still here? Yep, I see it down there. Okay, cool. All right, go ahead and write that down. We'll figure out all the shipping, etc. You've only been the past 2 days to win stuff. Katie, did you not win a single thing? Katie, where are you? I'm going to unmute you for one bonus question. Have you won anything yet? Where are you? Can anybody find her? Hold on. Katie, I'm unmuting
Katie,
you.
Request to unmute.
Hi, I'm here.
Have you won anything yet in the last 2 days?
No, I haven't. I've been trying so hard.
Okay,
and
so here's the deal.
That's really not the only reason why I'm here.
I know. I thought it was funny though. That was creative. Nikki, we'll have somebody answer in the box. Okay, so here's the deal. You get a bonus question. Here is the bonus question, and it's just to you.
Okay.
What was the first university in the United States of America?
First university. Hang on. Let's see. I'm thinking about it because that's what I do. I don't cheat. I don't actually use Google.
It wouldn't be cheating, but here's the deal.
I'm gonna go with Harvard. Just a wild guess.
Who helped you? You sandbagging son of a biscuit. All right. That is correct. Harvard 1636. Woo! That is the correct answer.
Oh.
So Nikki, make sure, I know I did like a random bonus there, but she had a clever way of asking to win stuff. I liked it. So I took it. I went with it.
Thank you so
make
much.
sure you get Katie on the list. We got to reach out to. We got 15 plus people to reach out to about free stuff. That's it for the Zoom chat. Everybody that's been in the Zoom, thank you guys so much. Round of applause for you all thank you so much. If I could have my team for our final goodbyes, jump over to I should put the link you guys all have it actually, except for Lauren, and we will wrap the last 5 minutes of this marathon of shows. Everybody in Zoom, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And we'll see you guys for our little wrap party. So here we go. I'm sending it right in the chat box. Please do us a favor. Only our team jump on the comment that I'm leaving right now. So, all right. See you guys there. Zoom is being shut down now, I think.
Oh man, do I need to help you with this too?
No, I want to be in the actual Zoom. I want to be in the actual StreamYard before I end this. So hold on. Okay.
He has a problem